And Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station. Official home of the Sixers, Flyers, Union, and the best Eagles talk in Philadelphia. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Good morning. Thought I'd help you wake up.
It's 6 a.m. and you're listening to The John Kincade Show, Philadelphia's longest-running sports talk morning show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Let the party begin!
The show starts now.
Time to get your Monday going. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. Hopefully it was restful. Hopefully it was fun. A lot of people around here had events going on and family events and fun events like that, which was great. I see Bob is back in his spot.
And here I am.
There's a certain level of comfort to that. Pat, did you get a hug this morning or not?
I did.
You did. You got the hug.
It was a great hug.
Intimate.
I waited at the door for him to come in today.
See, that's sweet.
I could just hear the like, take my breath away. I could hear that.
I didn't
in my head.
That. Oh, in your
I
head.
can hear it in my head. Yeah.
Connor was in early because I saw the lights come on early.
Yeah.
So Connor was in early. He was ready and raring to go.
I went to bed early last night.
You went to bed early?
Yeah, earlier than I normally do. Normally I'll stay up for like 30, 45 minutes after the Phillies game.
You're like, no.
Nah, I just called it.
I'm not doing it last night.
Long weekend.
The 6 a.m. hour is brought to you by our friends at Bradford White Water Heaters. Bradford White is here for the pro. We'll hear about Connor's weekend. He had a fun weekend. Bobby did too.
Yeah, good times.
I said this is always fun. And now as we start the 6 o'clock hour, Pat, do we have a morning mind bender?
Yeah.
What is it?
What is the only animal to have a funeral like a human?
What?
What is the only animal to have a funeral like a human? They hold funeral services.
Okay, this got to be a trick question. There's got to be something we're missing here. I have no freaking idea. I mean, Bob, do you have anything?
Just name an animal.
Bob, do you have anything?
I'm going to go orangutan.
I will say panda.
Crow.
All terrible guesses.
Crow, great on Mystery Science Theater 3000. But
None of them were remotely
Not right.
close. The answer is elephant. The elephant will hold a funeral / memorial service for fallen elephants.
Do they give speeches?
What
How do
I
they
don't
know?
understand. Do they
who gives
dig
the
a
eulogy?
grave?
They will surround the body. They will
Really?
mourn the loss. They will be there for days.
Wow.
They will look visibly upset. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Do
Look
they sit
visibly
shiva?
upset.
No, they cry.
Yeah.
Because some animals do cry when other animals die. I know that.
Yeah. They don't act normal.
Wow, that's crazy. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So they'll have a funeral.
That's incredible. So it's sort of like a funeral. It's their surrounding.
I mean, I don't think they have pallbearers.
No, I don't think they can carry it.
It'd be a lot of them.
Well, I would think 2 elephants could carry an elephant.
I guess.
Wouldn't you think?
How many elephants could carry an elephant?
I mean,
Six?
seriously, I mean, it would be 2 elephants or 4
I'm going
pallbearers?
4.
Bob, you think it's dead weight? Is that your thought process?
I mean, it could, but like you're not looking for a workout at a funeral. You're looking to make it easier. So I would say like 6 elephants, 3 on each side.
The weight's definitely dead. I mean,
It is dead weight. We know that, yes.
So
How about an urn? I mean, they can't put them in an urn yet.
big urn.
It'd be a big urn. Get that going. The Phillies had another great weekend against the Washington Nationals and another series loss to the Washington Nationals. But no, nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. This team's fine. They're okay. They're 19-18 the last 6 weeks. That's not fine. That's not playing good ball. That's playing bleck. But luckily for them, the Giants are 16-18. The Cubs are 22-12. The Diamondbacks are 12-22. The Reds are 14-20, and the Marlins are 11-22. This is the battle of ineptitude that 3 of these teams is going to make the postseason. 3 of these clubs will make the postseason, and the Phillies and the Cubs are the only teams over 500 in that stretch. Cubs playing the best baseball, Phillies playing the second best baseball. This is another loss to the Nationals. This is where your division is lost. You can't beat bad teams. Can't beat them. You should win 2 out of 3. I said on Friday, 2 out of 3. Extend your lead. You had the Giants playing the Atlanta Braves. Giants playing the best team in baseball in their building. They get 1 out of 2. Phillies play the Nationals, they get 1 out of 2. They had a chance to extend their lead going into this series, and they just don't play well. This team is just not. They got 6 weeks. They got 6 weeks to make people a believer. Right now, I'm not seeing anything that is like tangible to go, yep, this team's really, this looks pretty good. I'm just not.
That's why they're wild card teams. That's why they're not 40 games over 500 like the Braves are. That's what wild card teams are. Yeah, they are. Everybody's kind of just walking into the playoff potential. It's not fun. I think Pat had the line, or no, it was Connor had the line this morning. Yeah, you hate them right now. Then they sweep a series. You're going to love them again. Then you hate them again. Then you love them again.
That was Pat's line. You're stealing Pat's whole valor.
That was Pat.
Is that what
That's Pat's valor.
Okay. It's okay. Keep going.
That's Pat's stolen valor there.
It's just, it's somewhat maddening. And to look as lifeless as they did yesterday in such a great, I thought, a great surrounding. And the whole day, like I watched the media game in the morning, watching the Phillies go to the game. The teams get off the planes, get on buses, come and greet the kids. Could you imagine being a kid and looking up in the stands and you see Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber,
Harper,
and Bryce Harper all standing there watching you play?
That's awesome.
Like, that's incredible. So it just seemed like a great surrounding. It seemed like a day you were going to be all pumped up. And then Zach Wheeler goes out there and craps the bed in the first inning.
Thank God he gave you 7.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was actually big out of him.
That was huge.
That could have been a really rough performance to set you up for the series with the Giants. Here's the thing
That's like a real quick, I'm sorry. That's like a microcosm of what John was saying.
It is.
Like, he gave up 4 in the first inning. He lost the game for you in the first inning.
Right.
But thank God he gave you 7. Really? That's what we're looking
wait a
at
minute,
here,
though.
huh?
I mean, you're 4-0. The Phillies on the Nationals, they give up more than 4 runs a game. You should be able to beat the Nationals if you're starter. If you give up 4 runs a game, you should beat the Nationals.
Yeah, but if you give up 4 runs in the first inning, mentally that changes the game. It's not about how many runs they're scoring. It's not about the number. It's about, we got wheels on the mound, and he just gave up 4 against these guys, and he hasn't pitched well against them. It puts you in feels like a much different game when you give up 4 right off the bat. But over like the next 6 weeks, here's the thing, right? Because you're right, John. It's mediocrity for the wild card race. I'll ask you this.
It's worse than mediocrity. These are below 500.
Do you think any of the teams trailing them in the wild card race are better than the Philadelphia Phillies?
No, I do not. I do not, but I don't think that means anything.
Well, here's the rest of it.
It means they're like them. I think they're like them.
Do you think the Phillies can show you anything the rest of the way that would convince you by the playoffs that they're a better team than the Braves or the Dodgers?
No, but I do believe I would absolutely think in the next 6 weeks they could convince me that I have a great reason to believe they could beat those teams in a short series, especially a short series.
To me, it's just they're not going to convince me they're better than any of the teams better than them, and they're not going to convince me they're worse than any of the teams worse than them. So they just need to lock in that first wild card seed, and I don't really care how they do it.
They got a chance to do it against the Giants. 3-game series here. You had a chance to extend your lead. You didn't. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. You keep losing series to the Nationals is a joke. You've spent a fortune to bring in all these stars, and they're not performing.
Right, but I don't think that makes them. So losing to the Nationals doesn't make them worse than the Giants. Beating the Nationals doesn't make them better than the Dodgers.
No,
or
but
the
they're
Braves.
0-3 against the Giants this year too.
You're not learning anything new about this team down the stretch. Is my point. Just get to the postseason.
Okay, what if they were to go? What if they play 700 ball down the stretch? I would learn something about them.
You'd learn they're better.
Rolling into shit. They're getting hot at the right time.
But you'd still be crazy to then say they're a better team than the Braves or the Dodgers. Like, getting hot is a different thing. And getting hot, they didn't get hot until the postseason last year.
Correct. They were
backed
4-8. Yes, they backed in.
You're just not, at this point in the season, make it in, you're not learning anything more about them. I'm not saying everything's fine. I'm saying your mindset on where this team is in the standings shouldn't change over the last 6 weeks.
This is the most frustrating thing for me. They go out and John Middleton spends a fortune to make this team one of the highest payrolls in baseball. They do all this, and people are just content with, just get in. Just get in, and then they can get hot again.
Yeah, I mean, they're content because they saw what happened last year. That's a big part of it. But also baseball, we've been on the losing end of this where Phillies are one of the best teams in baseball, and they face a team that was just get in and end up losing to them. So it's a sport. It's not the NBA where, 9 times out of 10, barring the one, 8th-seeded Heat, normally, for baseball, it's like just getting in is a mentality. It's because there's facts to back it up. Wild card teams do end up making noise in the postseason.
They can make noise. The average team that wins the World Series is in the last decade's 99 wins. It's like. I keep hearing this. Well, these teams, we can make noise. I think they can make some noise. I think the Phillies can win a wild card series. but I want to believe that they can do more. And every time I ask to see it,
but this is what this team is.
Why is it though? How?
Because they didn't get the pitching. They don't have the pitching this year. They just don't.
Man.
Their front line start. Last night's a prime example. Like I'm praising Zach Wheeler because he gave up 4 innings, but ended up going 7.
No, I'm praising him for saving the bullpen. That's the only thing I'm saving him for. But you give up 4 runs to the Nationals, you should beat the
damn Nationals.
You should still beat them.
Freaking Wheeler.
I got you. You should still, as a team, you give up 4 to the Nationals, you should win the game.
It's ridiculous. Michael Lorenzen goes out and gives up 6.
That was terrible.
In the 4th inning against the Nationals on Friday. Like, you want to look at why this team...
being up 6-1, yeah.
You want to look at why this team sucks right now and why they're so frustrating? It's the damn pitching because they haven't gotten it all season long where they have to go out and they have to... The only move they make in the entire trade deadline is getting a starting pitcher that they're expected to throw to the bullpen if they get the postseason. They haven't gotten anybody in this rotation that actually performs. Even Taijuan Walker, who everybody likes to praise, will go out there and crap the bed in the first inning and then get it together. Like, that's where we're at as a team, as a fan base, is we'll sit there and praise a guy who gets it together after crapping the bed in the first inning. There's no shutdown pitcher on this freaking team.
Wow.
That is
really animated.
I don't know that that's fair.
Who? That's not fair.
Pitcher?
Who's the shutdown pitcher?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, first off, take a deep breath. We're in, what's today? September, August? I don't know what month it is.
Today is
No,
August.
you guys
August.
did this to me. I was fine when I came in. I was happy.
I need to give you another hug.
Take a deep breath.
No,
for
you
me.
take a deep breath.
Oh, we're in August. There's still time to go. These guys, they're not right now. But do they have the ability to be?
Do you realize you've said this for 2 months?
Yes. 2 months don't matter, John. This doesn't matter. None of this matters.
I understand. But
They're going to get in.
You're saying the same stuff all over and over again about this team.
Well, I mean,
and it never materializes.
Because it's 162 games. That's what baseball is. You say the same stuff for 162 games. You stay consistent. A team is good enough.
Consistent.
They get in, and you see what happens in October.
But they're not
that's how
consistent.
baseball works.
You said something, John. You said if they play 700 ball from now to the rest of the year, that's going to make me believe whatever. They were 25-32 this year. That was their low point. They've played 630 baseball since.
They have.
And we still have, in your voice, the frustration and the ups and downs. That there's only 3 teams in all of baseball that through the year have played 600 baseball. And the Phillies have played 627 since they've going 25-32.
Since digging themselves the hole. Right.
Yeah, since digging the hole. We're not going to be satisfied. They're not going to catch the Braves. I don't care who you are. You can, whether you side with John with, that why can't they be as good as the payroll says, or you say, well, they are what they are, like Connor says. It's somewhere right there.
You shouldn't have, in a 3-game series against the Washington Nationals, you put up a 21 innings.
Yes.
That's pathetic.
And
Pat, that's not the pitching. That's a lineup of multi-million dollars and tons of spending, and no one's showing up. 21 zeros.
You should have won that series.
You should have.
If you got pitching in game 1, and you didn't.
Totally agree.
I can accept the lineup going quiet in game 3, but when you don't win that series and you look at the reason why, it's Lorenzen giving up 6, it's Soto giving up 1, puts him in a 2-run hole. You hit a stupid, meaningless home run in the 8th or 9th inning or whatever it was, brings it within 1. You still lose the game. Like, that's the reason why they lost. They didn't get the pitching this series. I hate sports.
But then, a series with the Giants here, you can be sucked right back in.
Oh, I will be. They dropped. They split against the Blue Jays. They lost this crappy series against a bad team. Oh, they will absolutely win this next series, and I'll be back.
Now they'll beat the Giants.
Hit me up on Wednesday. No, Thursday. Hit me up on Thursday morning, and I will be peacocking around here in my Phillies hat.
Because everybody's is chumping the Giants. And now, so the Phillies should be able to, this is a series. Now, at some point, there's that switch. Because I keep hearing about that, too. There's a switch. They'll flip the switch, and we'll see this Phillies
I have not heard one person say that.
Oh, my gosh.
Because I don't think they have that confidence in this Phillies team this year that there is a switch to flip.
The thing is, though, we actually maybe feel better about this Phillies team.
Don't get choked up
than last year.
They're hurting
at this time. Than last year at this time. I think we feel better about this Phillies team than we did last year's team.
No chance.
Not how you guys just talked.
Last year,
when Rob Thompson came in, it was what was their record when Thompson came in? They were like 25 games over 500. After he came, it was managerial gold. It was baseball at its purest. No, I thought this time last year, like the last 11 games that you'll talk about backing into the playoffs and all of that
Which they
stuff.
did.
Yeah, that was different. But no, I thought after Thompson took over and the run that they had, I thought there was more hype last year than this year.
Yeah.
The only reason you have more hype this year, if you do, is because of what they did last year.
Well, last
You
August,
can't feel better about this baseball team at this point than you did at this point last season.
Last August, they had a 3-game losing streak, a 3-game losing streak, a 3-game losing streak. Like they were having these stretches. Then in September, they had a 5-game losing streak, 5-game losing streak. This team was stumbling, and thank God the Milwaukee Brewers went 4-10. You went 4-8, and you got in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully that's not the way. Here's a perfect opportunity. The Giants are in town. The Giants are not a great baseball team. Beat them.
Or football team.
Beat them. Beat them this week. Stop making excuses. Stop saying, well, all you got to do is get in. Just beat the Giants. Show that you can do this. This is a perfect microcosm.
Yeah, but those things can coexist. Like, I want them to beat the Giants. I think it's important that they beat the Giants. I'm also, it's got to exhaust you to every time they lose a series to a bad team because it's happened a lot.
That's all they do.
Like,
yes.
I'm just not changing my opinion on what this team is because they're not changing in the standings and they're not falling to the teams behind them or catching the teams ahead of them. For better or for worse, they're kind of locked into their standing right now.
And again, they didn't beat the good teams ahead of them. They were 8-16. They're 8-16 against the division leaders.
Well, they beat somebody. They've got a bunch of wins against some baseball teams.
They're beating the mediocre teams.
Well, guess what? Most teams in baseball this year are mediocre. We just talked about it in the wild card race. Like, there's a lot of mediocre baseball teams out there this year.
That's a very good point, Connor.
Do you feel good? Do you feel better about this year's team? You know what last year's team was. Do you feel better today about this year's team than last year's team?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Because the talent on the roster is better. The pitching is deeper. Even if they're not performing like it right now, I know their ceiling, their pitching is deeper. And you've got a bunch of players who have been there before.
So on paper, you like that, what you see? Because we haven't seen the pitching be deeper, better, or anything of that.
I mean, you've got guys. Now, the injuries are starting to pile up a little bit, so we'll see how that plays out. But I just say, when I look at the roster, it's a better roster than last year. When I look at the rotation,
paper,
it's better than last year. The bullpen, better than last year. Like, on paper, yes. And we're still a month and a half away from the postseason.
Where do you fall? Do you feel better about this year's team than last year's?
Well, it's weird. I mean, when you look at last year's team, you can't help but think the first thought that goes in your head was they lost in the World Series. That's a great place to be. You got all the way to the sixth game of the World Series. You can't project that on this team. I kind of agree with Connor. You have better talent on this team. I mean,
you went out and spent for it. You did, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you have a big at bat, would you rather have Trey Turner up at bat or whoever was playing
Gene Segura,
yeah,
who's not currently playing for a team,
right? The talent is just much better this year. So I don't know. You'll have to see. But comparing, it's hard not to think of last year's team without just thinking the World Series first and foremost, and you can't do that.
It was a great memory, Pat. Great memory. Where do you fall?
It's definitely skews your mindset because if they had gone and played the Cardinals and lost that series, then we're probably not feeling great. But if I think back to a year ago, I wasn't feeling good because they haven't made the playoffs in a decade.
Right.
I think if they
I feel better now because I had at least seen this team, at least 90% of this team make the playoffs last year and make a run. That's why I feel good. It's more not necessarily what happened last year. It's just the fact that those players got over the hump last year. So I feel like they'll get over the hump this year. So thus I feel better about them.
I think if they lost the Cardinal series last year, Pat, that right now we'd be saying, well, now they're leading for the top wild card. We'd be happier about it.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
we'd be like, okay, now we're like baby step forward. Yeah. Baby step. I think last year's World Series literally sets expectations that you're supposed to be a better baseball team than you are right now.
Right, and I don't know that it should have because it took it was a magical run, and I think we've gotten a little bit caught up in that's kind of the new norm. To quote Doug Peterson from back in that day, where that didn't work either. Where instead they're having a better regular season than they did last year, standing wise, and normally
no, they're behind last year's.
Well, I mean standing wise, as far as their top wild card.
They're behind last year's 87 win pace.
That's fine. I mean the different schedule and stuff like that, different rules. I don't know. Bottom line is they're going to be a higher seed this year. They're making incremental growth towards better postseason standings. It is what it is. I wish they were better.
We got Phillies drama. We got James Harden drama. We'll get to it next. John Kincade Show here on a Monday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic. You know what the AACR
97.5 The Fanatic on Odyssey on your smartphone, Roku, LG Smart TV, Waze, and more. That's Odyssey, AUDACY. Check it out now.
Hey, imagine if your favorite casino came with an undo button. Well, guess what? You get that. With FanDuel Casino's Play It Again. Get up to $1,000 back if you're down after your first day. Play your favorite table games and hundreds of slots for real cash. You'll see why FanDuel Casino is the #1 rated online casino app. So many daily and weekly promotions you can mess around with. There's live dealers that you play with, and if you ever have any questions, they have an in-class customer support team that's there all the time to give you a hand. So sign up for FanDuel Casino with FanDuel.com/Bob today and play it again with up to $1,000 back if you're down after your first day. That's FanDuel.com/Bob. 21 plus and present in Pennsylvania. Must not have previously placed any wager on FanDuel Sportsbook, FanDuel Casino, Betfair Casino, Mohegan Sun Casino, or Stardust Casino. Refund issued as non-withdrawable casino-only site credit that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/casino. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG.
Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
You know, at Staples, school savings are always in session. From art supplies and essentials to the latest tech, in stock and priced low. School on, save on at your local Staples store. Not liking what Karen Rogers had to say, Bob, this morning. And I'm hoping it changes. They haven't been having a great track record lately with these storms coming and going and everything like that, but a little concerned.
Well,
I'll worry about it Thursday.
Yeah,
is the way
Thursday's the day you have to look at Saturday, but I think FanDuel will go off without a hitch.
FanFest.
I'm FanFest from FanDuel.
From FanDuel.
Yes.
We'll go on, but I'm not liking it, Karen Rogers. I don't like your tone. I hear tone's very important. Your tone is extremely important. Jim Burns says, John, you have never seen an elephant obit in the paper where they say, in lieu of flowers, please bring peanuts.
That's bad humor.
That's
horrible.
Sir, come on. Yeah. Please bring peanuts.
Why did you share
Jim Burns,
that?
you just
he just embarrassed me.
It's terrible. And
after the Phillies, that's how we're starting off our Monday.
Then Anthony Perry says, you're 100% right. The stinking Orioles are 30 games over 500. The Rays are 26 games over 500. Overpaid athletes not performing. At the end of the day, whether you're hitting 180 or you're not winning, these players still go home rich for playing a game. He thinks it's ring complacent.
That is so juvenile to me. Always bringing up the money, the money, the money. Okay, they all get paid. They're all professional athletes. They all want to win for the most part. Seriously, so you think they don't care? Well, why do you think they're playing the sport? They don't want to win? You don't think the Phillies that were in the World Series last year don't have that taste in their mouth of, damn, we were right there. I want to get that. I want to celebrate the way the Astros did. Oh, no, they're just going to go home and count their money.
I think it's ridiculous.
That's just tiring.
I think money is but I think money as far as what John Middleton's expecting for his investment absolutely is an issue. That maybe you're not building, when you look at the Orioles and the Rays, maybe you're not building your team the right way.
I don't know. Trey Turner's having a year that it totally is unexpected. Kyle Schwarber, I still can't stand it when I'm watching a national game and they put up 183. As a leadoff hitter. It just doesn't bode well for me. Bryce Harper coming back from the injury. JT Realmuto isn't playing up to snuff, or maybe this is what he's becoming now because of his age or whatever. I don't think a baseball team has to be the easiest to put together. You don't need camaraderie. You have to play well together. It's not like baseball. Football or basketball or hockey where you have to gel as a team and play. You're there to play defense and hit a ball. It's as individual as it comes. I just don't think the Stars are having the years they anticipated, and that's a big reason where you are where you are.
27th and 28th payrolls in baseball, the Rays and the Orioles. $79 million. Rays are paying $79 million. Orioles are paying $70 million. Phillies are paying $245 million. It's mind-boggling. But look at the Padres. Look at the Mets. They're ahead of the Phillies. The Padres and the Mets are terrible. The two of them are rivaling each other for the ineptitude of suck this year. Both of them 5 or 6 games under 500 in the wild card race, not even in the mix. So the James Harden drama got clarified by multiple sources and Woj. The liar comment was directed at Daryl Morey because he took Harden off the trading block. But again, I don't know. And Bob, you've covered these things. Is Morey just supposed to trade him for any? Do you think James Harden thought, well, then that just means he'll get rid of me for whatever he can get rid of me for, when he gave them one team? And hearing at least you go read some of the LA stuff, the Clippers were interested, but they weren't going to offer. When there's one team, they're not going to bid against themselves, so they're not offering what Daryl Morey wants. I think it's a quandary there, because when you say you're going to trade somebody, I don't think you expect, well, there's one team I'm willing to go to and one team I can negotiate with.
Yeah, well, I told you that a couple weeks ago I talked to sources that were out in Las Vegas, and that they knew that the Sixers and Clippers were talking, and the Clippers were willing to talk or do something, but the Sixers' price was just, too much. So I still don't know why Daryl Morey felt the need to come out and say we're taking him off the trading block.
What would you think? Give me a theory as to why you think he did that.
I really don't have one.
Really?
Honest to God, I don't
You've
have one.
You've never seen it before or anything?
If I'm like Oklahoma City, if I'm some other team and I'm drawing up something and I say, let's see, can we give this up for Harden or whatever? Why would you announce that you don't want to listen to anybody anymore? It makes no sense. If the littlest thing it does is that it closes the line of communication. And why would you do that? I would never do that. And I don't know, perhaps and probably there is meaning behind him doing it. There is a reason behind Daryl Morey saying, no, he's off the table now. Did it force Harden's hand in some way? Was he trying to get an answer of something somehow? I don't know, but I said it that day when they came out and said, we're taking it. I said, why would you say that?
I think he was trying to get Harden maybe to move off of the one team. I'm trying to think of a reason, because to me, I agree with you 100%. It's a bad message.
Yeah,
because it limits you already have a limited declining asset anyway. That the NBA showed you, he had he could have gone to any team he wanted to if they were willing to pay him, and nobody was willing to pay him. Nobody was willing to make a move for him. He's a free agent if he wanted to be. So, I mean, why limit your market if you're Daryl Morey? I understand James Harden wants what he wants, but to hell with that. I mean, I'm not worried about what James Harden wants. I'm worried about what the Sixers want.
Yeah, that has to be Daryl Morey's, first concern is the team. Well, the team doesn't look very good right now because you don't have a point guard. And you have maybe 3 starters on this team. Could be down to 2, depending on what happens with Tobias Harris, because James Harden's out, Tobias Harris is iffy, and I'm convinced P.J. Tucker can't be a starter on a team that's going to try to compete for a championship or compete for a conference title. So you have 2 starters right now in Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey that are planted, that are guys that are going to be there. After that, what do you got? Well, and you got training camp starting in a couple of months.
Well, the thing is, though, is Harden has to be there. He doesn't have a choice not to show up.
You think he's going to be in the starting lineup for the Sixers this year?
I don't. But he's not getting paid.
If
Morey doesn't trade him, he is going to lose. By that CBA, and even hearing Woj on this, that CBA looks pretty clear. He's not going to get paid.
You're talking business. I'm talking the actual playing of it. Do you think James Harden is going to be the Sixers starting point guard this year?
I don't think
That's what I'm saying.
Have him, right?
So right now you have 2 starters on this team that you're hoping to get a championship out of.
Pat, he absolutely will be.
You say he will be?
Yeah, I mean, not for maybe the entire season, but he'll be there game 1.
Wow, this is interesting. Go on.
Well, I think he's going to have to face reality that he needs to up his trade value to get out, and the only way to do that is to start and play well. The same thing happened in Houston. He kind of did this whole thing in Houston, and then eventually he had to come back and show that he was in peak physical condition or whatever you want to call it. I mean, he played pretty well. Then ended up getting traded to Brooklyn. I mean, this whole sitting out thing, it doesn't work. I think one of the reasons why Daryl Morey might have put it out there of taking him off the trade block is to have him get his mind right of, all right, I'm not going to be going to LA for training camp. I'm going to be coming to Philadelphia. So it kind of gives him a 3-week head start to getting your mind wrapped around the fact of the trade's not coming right now. And if you want a trade to happen, you need to play really, really well, and maybe we can do a 3-team trade or something. But I mean, he stupidly picked a team too that doesn't really have any assets.
And he wants what he wants. I get it. I just don't understand why Daryl Morey would do anything to decline his value.
If things stay the way they are, that means Daryl Morey's still your president of basketball ops, and James Harden is still under contract. You believe he's going to be here game one, Pat?
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to. I hear you on the business side and all that. I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
Like at this point, what would it benefit?
I hear
them?
you. Yeah.
And then what would it benefit the Sixers too? I mean, they want to. I think the Sixers' hope at this point is he comes into training camp, gets around the guys, starts having fun. Okay, all right, I'll go back and rethink this. I don't want to be traded. I'll stay. And the way to do that is to play.
Yeah, it's a lot of hoping.
I mean, winning cures all, right? So if he plays and then he plays well and they start winning, why would you want to leave this place?
And he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so he could go and make his deal. I just know this is that, like Kendrick Perkins, who used to be a big defender of Harden, now seems to be one of his most vocal, like, dude, understand your value. Come in, go to work. And he says the same thing as you, Pat. Come in, go to work, and then you'll get traded. Teams will call. Teams will want you. Come in, go to work, and entice some teams that's what you got to do. I just don't know how you can have him around.
Yeah, well, that's obvious. I mean, we said that on this show months ago that, like, all right, the best thing Harden can do is go into Philadelphia, play his ass off, and people want him, and he gets what he wants or whatever. I just don't think after all this has gone down, look, the ins and outs of it, the X's and O's of it, business-wise and all say he has to. I just don't see it happening.
Well,
I don't see it.
The way you can have him around is the last time that this stuff happened 2 years ago with Ben Simmons, he was mad at the organization but was also mad at the team and was mad at his teammates for how they handled Game 7 against
Right, he has his teammates
Hawks.
on his side. You're right.
He's got his teammates on his side. Yeah, it's really, it seems like it's one guy that he's upset with, and that one guy, I mean, that practice facility is pretty big. You could probably avoid him if you wanted to.
I think you could.
So I think that is the difference. You can go a couple days probably in that practice facility with avoiding seeing Daryl Morey if you want to, whereas Ben Simmons, who, by the way, we were unaware, but was actually going to practice and going to film study and whatnot, but he was going, but he had no interest in being around any of those people.
Hey, the Eagles will begin joint practices with the Colts. Colts are expected to be really bad. Shane Steichen's back in town, the assistant coach that we were sad to lose from most of the fan base. I would think in the practices, you last week were able to make Deshaun Watson look a little bad. You better make Anthony Richardson feel like a complete rookie this week. No sleepwalking through the first day like they did last week. I mean, I read much more into the joint practices than I do the preseason games. But this is a good little test. Is you got a tomato can team coming in, and now just show what you can do with this rookie quarterback and make him look really, really raw.
Tomato can team man, I don't like that at all.
So you don't like that?
What do you get out of it? And they're going to get something out of it because you are playing against pros, and it's another team, and it's other players, and you get to hit somebody else and all. We'll see. I don't know. Hopefully it's just to get out of there with no injuries and all of that sort of thing. But there's still some, I don't take anything out of the preseason game, to be honest. I don't think I watched any of it because I was kind of on vacation mode.
Right.
You didn't miss. You know what? No, actually, this is what it was. What'd they play? Thursday night?
Thursday night.
So, as you guys know, we had tickets to see Springsteen on Wednesday and Friday, and it got canceled. So Thursday, friends of ours said, hey, there's a Springsteen cover band playing in a park near our house. So we went over to that. So we're just sitting there in lawn chairs on a beautiful night outdoors. It was great. And I said, let me see what the Eagles are doing. And I put a look on my phone, and it's 3-2.
And you're like,
I was like, I don't know why I taped this one because I sure as hell am not going to watch it. We know what all came out of it, and I did, wind up watching a little bit of it.
Some of the youngsters made some noise.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see.
Yeah. Nakobe Dean forcing a fumble on actually what was kind of a missed tackle. But, there's really nothing to gain with this team right now. I don't know. The only question marks about them is, all right, who's going to get cut? Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? It looks like I was reading some stuff about the running back committee now. I don't know if they're all that high on Rashad Penny anymore. Is Sermon going to get the job instead? But other than that, you have a guy that comes in and this is a concern now. They supplant a guy in Miles Jack as a starting linebacker, picking him up off the street. First of all, that's concerning. and then a week later he retires.
Yeah, well, I think he showed them why he was ready to retire. They brought him in, took a flyer. He wasn't ready.
Yeah,
I think he was going to get cut, and they gave him the opportunity to retire. I don't know. I think he knew he was going to get cut.
Why are you putting him in for 5 days with the starting unit? That's a waste of time. That's crap.
I mean, he had more pedigree coming in than Zach Cunningham.
He did.
And then he quickly lost his spot.
Because he didn't play better than Zach Cunningham. And he didn't play better than Nakobe.
We're talking about Zach Cunningham.
No, I got you.
Listen to this.
That tells you that Miles.
I like Richie Cunningham. But I don't like, this is how, I don't want to say depleted, but is this how
thin
low they look at this linebacking core, that you're going with a guy that's never started? And let's see, who else? I don't know. We'll see.
Like, think about what you just asked. Is this how low they think of the linebacker? Yes.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
I mean, do I have to rattle off the names of the past of the Alex Singletons?
Don't.
Like, yeah, dude, Nate Gary. Like, yes, this is what they think of the unit. Like, they've always thought this. They scrape the bottom of the barrel, and when you think that they can't scrape anymore, they find a new place to scrape. Like, this is what they do. They'll go and they'll find somebody playing in Germany and be like, oh, he can be a starting linebacker. This is just the Eagles' MO. They put no value into the linebacker position. They hope that some of the younger players that they draft can develop into a starting linebacker, and if not, then they'll grab some undrafted free agent from the Edmonton Eskimos.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree more. You don't just throw a guy in there for 5 days to say, oh, let's just show he doesn't belong.
Well, I think he knew
that's a waste of time.
No,
you don't do that.
They thought he would belong.
They thought he'd belong, and then I think that he was the Steelers' leading tackler last year. But I think he was quickly showing, at least from the reports of the people who were eyeballing him at the practices, and he wasn't going to make this team, or he wasn't going to do it. And then he's walking away now. I don't know what he's got a lot of aspirations in life. Is Miles Jack? So
yeah, he talked when he signed. He talked about retiring and being a
trade school.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, he wanted to be like a welder or a plumber.
I think he wants to build things. For when the apocalypse.
To do like
it wasn't
the apocalypse.
It was. I respected it because it wasn't a situation of. He made it clear. It's not like I've lost my money. I wouldn't sit at home. I'd get bored, so I want to do something.
He wants to do like a renovations and things like that.
Yeah, we'll see him HGTV.
HGTV show.
Absolutely.
God knows, might as well. There's a ton of shows that are on there.
Absolutely.
My wife never turns it off. She never turns off the HGTV.
Jacking up your home.
There's very few things that I like. Not few things. I don't mind the people who take the house, love it or list it. I don't mind that one.
Oh, I can't stand that show.
See, I like those two.
I don't like any of them, but I don't like that one.
Do you like Christina on the Coast? You sort of like Christina.
Don't watch it.
You would like Christina, though, right?
Say, no.
The blonde?
I can. Well, you just narrowed it down for me. A blonde in California. I can honestly say I've never turned on HGTV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's just not a channel.
It's like never turned off in our house.
Yeah. I mean, and I get. I mean, it's huge.
She loves it.
Huge with the mom community. I mean, they love seeing how shiplap goes on walls.
But the thing is, then she learns to do stuff, which is amazing because I don't learn to do stuff.
I mean, it's like, all right, hey, get to work.
I learned to call a contract.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
I don't learn watching. I can't learn.
I think
my wife designed our bathroom by watching HGTV and went to the work guy working on our house and drew it up, and he did it.
I wonder if contractors treat HGTV like doctors treat WebMD.
I think they probably
just get so frustrated.
So,
and like Bob, your situation with Donna ends up working out, but it must be pretty annoying for a contractor because you know that they'll have like a wife that goes, well, I want this and that and all this crap that is just not feasible.
I know I've told you this story, but I don't know if I told it on air. But we went over to our contractor's house because we became friends with him, and he's friend of a friend or whatever. And when we were talking about the bathroom that we were doing, we were making 2 bathrooms into one. He's like, all right, why don't you come over and we'll go through it or whatever. We go over and Donna pulls out a piece of paper of her drawings and she goes,
I love that.
I watch a lot of HGTV.
By the way, she got her way there, right?
Yeah, so Larry looks at me and he goes, go grab a beer. So like our contractor was, okay, whatever. And to a T, he did exactly what she wanted. So
see, that's what you're supposed to do.
I guess, yeah. So, good for both of them.
But she understood, probably from watching HGTV, that she couldn't move the plumbing, that she couldn't, like, she understood some things.
Yeah,
she laid out the room well. She laid out good stuff there. Hey, we'll talk in Cooney's Corner coming up. about expectations the rest of the way for this Phillies club. It's a Monday morning John Kincade show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Media Group Station. Official home of the Sixers, Flyers, Union, and the best Eagles talk in Philadelphia. 97.5 The Fanatic. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
John Kincade Show on a Monday morning, 97.5 The Fanatic. Supposed to be really hot, really humid today. It's Bob's kind of like, Bob says, well, let me get out and do some yard work kind of day.
Yeah, I got a lot to do because we hosted not one, but 2 parties this weekend. So I do have a lot of maintaining to do. I've done most of it, but there's some tents to be broken down and chairs and tables and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'll be out there sweating. Love it.
And then you'll jump in the pool. Cool off a little bit?
Yeah, probably.
Hey, at Staples, school savings are always in session. From art supplies and essentials to the latest tech, in stock and price low, school on, save on at your local Staples store. There were some kids, they said this morning on Channel 6, going back to school today on August 21st. Now, I remember some kids going back before. Well, we never went back before Labor Day.
No.
When we were kids. Then they started doing like this week before Labor Day, which would be next week. But I never heard this early. I mean, this is really crazy.
Because I don't see it on the back end. I mean, I see kids getting out of school like late June. I don't hear about kids getting out early June because they started so early. So, no, give them till after Labor Day and do the normal, middle of June, you're out. And let's get back to the normalcy of things.
Yeah, I mean,
come on, Pat.
Pat, did you ever go back before Labor Day?
We would always go back, the week before Labor Day. We would go back. We'd have Labor Day off.
Would you have the Friday before Labor Day off too, or not?
No.
Okay.
But then the week after Labor Day, you'd kind of actually get into the whole trying to learn. Right. Because the week before, it was everyone coming back, getting reacclimated, learning who your teacher was or teachers, and doing the icebreaker crap, and then you'd get into it.
You hated the icebreaker crap.
No, I didn't mind that.
Oh, you didn't?
Because I knew.
I thought you didn't like it.
No, I liked it. I didn't like what came after it, which was the learning part.
So you didn't mind the icebreakers?
No, I liked the icebreakers. Those were fun. I mean, at that point, you kind of know everybody anyway, but it was still, it was fun.
I got told in some of my teacher reviews that they liked that I valued their time. That I got right to business. We didn't do like, let's get to know each other. You're all grown-ups here. Let's get to work because I want to get you out of here. I don't want you having to stay late.
Well,
so I learned that's a great way to.
No, in college, kids. Yeah, in college, I'm talking in.
No, but I'm saying is
grade school and high school and college. Yeah, it's like we don't need to do icebreakers. Let's just we're here to leave.
Right, we're here. We're here. They loved. We never stayed. They never had to stay the whole time. When we got done, we were done. 2 hours and 5 minutes was the longest class of a 2 hour 30-minute scheduled class.
Yeah,
it's like,
for us, it's
learn what you're doing.
For me, at least, it was, I'm here so I don't get fined. Like, let's just get this crap over with.
Hey, Bob wants to know something about the Phillies, and it involves the number 3.
Now, let's see what's in Cooney's Corner.
Yeah, so the other day, I love having these discussions about, and you guys know how many friends I talk to about it and all that. So one of the greatest sports minds I know is my high school basketball coach, Jimmy Crawford, who's in the Big Five Hall of Fame, a legend coach, all of that stuff. But more so than anything, he thinks things out when it comes to sports. And it's not just basketball, where, again, he's a terrific coach, but it's all sports. And he is one of the biggest baseball fans and biggest thinker of baseball that I know. So I thought to myself the other day, I need a different perspective on what's going on with the Phillies. So I asked him this simple question. For the rest of this season, who are the 3 most important Phillies moving forward?
3 most important Phillies.
Now,
I think I have mine.
Okay, he had 2 of his answers I thought were obvious, and then the third one was pretty cool. So go ahead, who's yours?
Well, definitely it would be Wheeler.
Not on his list and not on mine.
It would be Wheeler, Nola.
Nola was on his list.
And Trey Turner.
Trey Turner was on his list. How about yours,
Nola,
Pat?
Trey Turner.
Wheeler, Nola, and I'll go with Alvarado.
There it is.
Wow, that's a great one.
I had Alvarado / Sir Anthony. I didn't mean either or. I meant kind of both of them.
He went 2 bullpen arms.
Well, yeah. I just think the pitching staff comes into place. We can say Wheeler, Nola. We could say Lorenzen, whatever. I agree with you guys. Pitching is always going to be front and center when you're looking at things like that. But man, this bullpen, if they can get it righted, I think it just settles your whole pitching staff a whole lot more. You've gone this whole season pretty much without Sir Anthony and Alvarado. And remember where we were last year with the two of them? They were gold. They were, either one came into the game, you felt great. And you could have closed with either one of them. Now, Kimbrel's had a good season. I don't know if he's fallen off a little bit now and, if it's something that's not sustainable for the rest of the year. I don't know. I'm going to assume he's still going to be good. You get Alvarado and Sir Anthony back at, full tilt. I just think it really rounds this whole pitching staff, rounds it to a better place than they've been all season.
Oh, I don't think you're incorrect. I actually kicked myself a little bit because on one hand, I think it would really remedy a lot what's going on with this team right now. But on another hand, I look at last year and say, why'd you beat the Braves? Why'd you beat the Padres? Why'd you beat the Cardinals? Your starting pitching was better than theirs, superior to those in all 3 series. And that was Wheeler and Nola were 2 of the primary reasons why you did.
Right, and one of the reasons I called Rob Thompson managerial gold was because he was making these weird decisions, pulling guys early, whatever. And a lot of it had to go to Sir Anthony Dominguez and Alvarado. And you don't have them right now, and you haven't had them at full strength for almost the whole season. Now, Sir Anthony seems maybe to be rounding into form a little bit, and Alvarado's supposed to get recalled today. I believe he might be available. So I just think what happened last year, like you said, John, your starting pitching was so good. And the question that we had was, well, why is Thompson pulling them so early? Well, they were good, but his bullpen was even better, and he had the confidence to do that.
He mixed and matched last year beautifully, Pat.
He did.
And a lot of times we were questioning the mixing and the matching, and it worked out.
Well, I think my biggest surprise of this year, other than the fact that Nolan Wheeler just have kind of crapped the bed, is your 5th starter going into the season was Bailey Falter, who pitched really, really well down the stretch last year. Last 2-3 months, he solidified that spot.
He did.
He starts this season off, he is horrible. And you have to send him down, and your guy that you replace him with is basically doing exactly what he did last year. And Christopher Sanchez. And that is something that I didn't expect in a good light. I didn't expect Wheeler his ERA to be close to 4. I didn't expect Nola his ERA to be close to 5. But I also didn't expect, if you would have told me, hey, Bailey Falter's not going to be very good and you're going to have to replace him with Christopher Sanchez, I would have thought you were in a really, really dark place. And I mean, it's one positive, but he stepped in and done a really, really good job. If they can get everybody else back in line, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I can tell you that I just wonder whether Wheeler and Nola can get it going.
That was so disappointing from Wheeler last night. Just to come out like that and get hit all over the place in a great atmosphere and what you assumed was going to be a good game, and he was the needle that went through the balloon last night.
Well, he really was, and he's rarely been that.
Yeah,
there was something interesting that was said on the broadcast. I don't know if you guys picked up. Depends on what broadcast you're watching, but I was watching the regular one, and they posed the question of whether or not he was tipping pitches.
Oh, really?
And the point they made was he gets hammered in the first inning, and they're just teeing off on him and squaring up every ball. And then after that, they couldn't get anything going off of him at all. Maybe he was tipping stuff. And initially, on the surface, I would probably go, yeah, whatever, probably not. He had done that earlier in the season where the
Nats kicked him around.
This might be an issue with him over tipping pitches, because this is the second time this season where it's happened. The one time he admitted it, that he realized that he was tipping and fixed it and got it under control. But if he's doing it again, I mean, that's something that Caleb Cotham has to recognize quicker than the first inning. Like, you got to go out and be like, dude, you got to stop. Because he's a veteran pitcher. Tipping your pitches at this point is, I don't know how you do that.
Especially if he's shown that he can fix it.
Yeah.
If he's shown that he can fix it that easily, it was that easily fixed. I don't know why after the 3rd or 4th line drive hit, you didn't adjust. But
that's one of the cool things about baseball, in my eyes is that, okay, here's a veteran, a guy that's been around a long, long time, who has started a lot of games in the major leagues, and you can still pick something off from him. Like, he's tipping his pitches. Like, that's something I remember when my kids were little, like 10, 12 years old, and they're playing, and I'd call them over and I'd say, hey, listen, when that kid fiddles with his hand, you know it's going to be a curveball when he has his hand in the glove. Every time.
He's trying to find the seam.
I said, when he just comes set and throws, it's going to be a fastball. Like, little things like that, you're still doing at the major league level. It's bad on him, bad on Wheeler that he's allowing it, but I still think it's a cool part of the game where you can pick something like that up.
The nuance.
I remember
of the game.
Connor, don't want to steal his story, but he played with a kid in college that could pick up like every little tick, twitch, and knew every pitcher and what they were throwing based off the littlest tiny thing.
Wow.
And I think what Connor told me was that kid just sucked. Like, he couldn't hit the baseball, but he could pick it up. I mean, it is a real skill to be able to pick up. So he
helped his teammates.
Yeah, he would be able to help his teammates, but he just, he wasn't very good at
he wasn't
baseball.
listening, because then that kid now thinks he's terrible.
Well,
that kid's probably going,
I mean, I think his batting average told him that.
Did I play with Connor?
He didn't need Pat to tell him that.
Hey, the 7 a.m. hour is brought to you by the all-new Bet Parks app. Sportsbook and casino in one sleek, easy-to-use app in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So, Pat, with Miles Jack gone, and it was referenced earlier with Bob, is that what do you think is the Howie plan right now? Is he lurking like a shark? Is he, or is it just going to wait until Saturday when teams are cutting players?
I would think he's probably going to wait, but it is interesting. They paid $2.5 million for Jack, and I would assume they get most of that back in cap space.
I think they get it all back.
Yeah, when you retire. I'm not going to pretend that I read the CBA, but I would assume you get pretty much all of it back. So they've already kind of shown their hand that they want to address linebacker, and one of the linebackers retires. So I would think that they would be on the lookout for linebackers that are getting cut or a value trade. But I still think that if you're going to use this savings, you already found at least one guy that you can quasi count on, I guess, in Cunningham. I mean, it seems
Cunningham,
like at least,
they said, he's going to be around.
He's looked like he can play a little bit when they brought him in. Okay, fine. So you brought in two. You got one out of it. Good on you. I still think they need to be looking for like safety cornerback help. There's not a lot after what they have in the secondary department. So I do wonder, is he going to look at this $2.5 million savings as, okay, let's use that $2.5 million on linebacker because he brought two linebackers in and I still want to fill that? Or is he going to look at it like, well, hey, I took two shots in the dark. I hit one. Where else do I need to fill holes? Secondary is it, especially with the fact you cut Greedy Williams, who that was coming, but you brought him in to be cornerback depth and it didn't end up panning out. You lost Zach McPherson for the year. So you lost basically two guys in a spot that you couldn't really afford to lose a lot of guys because you don't have a lot of depth there. I really do think like a trade's coming in terms of either safety or cornerback.
Are you talking about impact trade?
No, probably not. I mean, I've been clamoring for Jeremy Chin, but I don't think it's probably happening. But then again, Howie works in the shadows. Most of the trades that Howie ends up completing, you never hear about. Most of the time it's us contemplating. And then something happens. They'd go after this guy, that guy. You think that last year, nobody in Philadelphia was saying, oh, the Eagles should trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Then boom, it happens. The A.J. Brown stuff, we hadn't heard that.
No, we didn't.
A.J. Brown and the Eagles, A.J. Brown being on the trade block, we hadn't heard. So most of the time with Howie Roseman, it's just working in the shadows. So I'm not going to say that he won't make an impact trade, but at this point, $2.5 million, I don't know how much impact you're getting from that, especially if you have to give up a pick. But I do wonder though, and what do you guys think? Is he going to use this savings with linebacker, secondary, or just roll it over?
I think they like the secondary. They like the young guys they've seen in the secondary. I think they probably thought that was going to be more of an issue at the beginning of camp, and now it looks like that might be an area. The secondary may be an area where they're feeling more comfortable. I'm not comfortable with the linebacking core at all.
No.
At all. But if Howie is, if Sirianni is, then that means they know more than us. They know more.
No, they can be wrong.
They could.
they can be wrong. I don't know. This is what concerns me. How many times do you have a team that you, no matter the sport, are projecting to be, one of the best in the championship, winning the conference, whatever, and you just have a position that you're totally still, as fans, in question of. And rightfully so. And, somebody on our chat board was like, well, you don't watch football if you haven't seen Cunningham play. Okay. I watch football. I'm not going to pretend that I've seen Cunningham play an awful lot. I do watch other games, but he never stuck. It's not a name that I really knew or anything like that. That's my point. You didn't draft somebody. You have Nakobe Dean going in there who's never, ever started a professional game. And you're relying your whole defense on him. And I read another story this weekend about, it's all on him. There's no question about it. He's going to be that every down linebacker on this team.
Correct. They're hoping. By the way, that is a wish and a hope at this point that he can be that. It's not. You can't say it's a guarantee that he's going to do. I am the biggest Nakobe Dean fan you're going to find, and I don't consider that a foregone conclusion.
No,
I don't consider it something that you can't.
Yeah, how could you?
Well, I mean, but the thing is, the way the Eagles are acting, it's sort of like they do, Pat.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
If they do, then I have to trust them on that because they've been right the last 2 years on guys that I had the similar questions about. Like Marcus Epps last year. I mean, a year ago now, I was good. I was questioning whether or not he was actually the guy they were talking him up. Well, he was the guy. Like he was really good. So if the coaches are talking you up and say you can do the job, then I have to believe him at this point. I guess my big question would be the fact you have a new defensive coordinator. And how does that work? I mean, you had Nakobe Dean come in here learning defense last year, and then he's got to learn a completely new defense and kind of get acclimated to life in the NFL as a starter. It's just that's a lot to throw on a kid's plate in year 2.
And he also has to I need to see. I am a huge Nakobe Dean fan, and I got to see it to believe it. I'm not just signing up saying I absolutely think he's going to step in there day one and be an impact player for this franchise and be able to do it. I have concerns.
No question. You should. Sorry, Pat. Go ahead.
Well, I don't think there's any problem with saying, I got to see it. Because we've all been burned in the past by blind faith, whether it be draft picks or signings or whatever, right? We've all been burned by this guy's going to be a stud and he ends up sucking. So I don't necessarily have any problem with anyone saying, look, I like the kid, but I got to see it because we've all of us as sports fans have been burned by, I don't have to see it. I watched him in college. I watched this. I watched YouTube highlights, blah, blah, blah. And then the games end up getting played. And it's like, oh, man, life comes at you fast.
Now, like I said, I didn't watch a whole lot of the game, and I recorded it and went back and looked at it. But is it just me, or might be an obvious thing, doesn't he look small to you guys? He just looks small to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is small. I mean,
I know,
but I mean, by terms, he's absolutely small compared to a lot of his peers.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know.
It's still a big question mark. It just is. And as much as we want to convince ourselves when we go to the safety position and that there's depth there now because some guys are Sidney Brown, he looked a heat-seeking missile and all that. That's great, and hopefully he is, and hopefully Ed Reed Blankenship is as good as he has played so far in this preseason, picking Deshaun Watson off 3 times in the joint practices. That's great. There's still legitimate question marks.
Well, I mean, he's a Cunningham's a run stuffer. I don't know that he's anything more. He's going to be picked apart in the passing game. If reputation continues, he's going to be a guy who isn't good at that. But the Eagles find ways to cover things up. They really do. I have doubts. That's the only part of this Eagles team that I seriously have doubts in, except for punter, where I can't go another season of Siposs.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to. Yeah, I think they're going to rectify that.
You think there'll be a cut this weekend?
They have to.
There'll be a cut this weekend that
they'll grab somebody else.
It's got to be.
Yeah,
because they can't. You can't let. I don't understand how you can walk in if you're a teammate and say, "I'd probably have a Super Bowl ring if this guy did his job in the Super Bowl." Under pressure, biggest kick of his life, he failed miserably, and just I can't imagine putting him back in the same room. That I say we're counting on this guy. This is the guy. He didn't have a good year last year. He's not looking good. There's got to be a kicker out there. We already know there's a punter.
We know there's a punter.
There is a punter out there. We already know there is one, and he's available. But they may not want. And if you tell me you don't want the controversy of a guy who was falsely accused, you better have really good intelligence that says, yeah, well, maybe he wasn't a popular guy. NFL teams have reportedly talked to him. Buffalo, so reportedly, who had gotten him, says the punt god, that there were people within the Buffalo organization that felt he had an entitled air about him or something like that. Like he thought a lot of himself.
Well,
I sort of want him.
I wonder why his nickname is the punt god.
I sort of want him to think.
You don't just throw out that god named anybody, right, Pat?
Not at all.
Like, Pat, you're the board god. You're the board god around here. We call you
the
that.
Jersey
I
god.
think if you have listened to this show long enough, you know that is
the Jersey god.
I'll take that one.
That's a good. I say it's a perfect one for you.
Yeah, that one's fitting.
By the way, the other day, Pat, I went over and saw our friends because I was having to return as we cut the cord. So I had to return some FiOS, cable television boxes.
Yep.
I went over to your neck of the woods. You directed me over. I saw the Rally House over there. What a great every time I'm in there, that Rally House is a great one. It rocks. I guess it's Roxborough.
Yeah,
that is a fantastic Rally House.
Yeah,
really good.
Nice spot.
They have
plenty of jerseys.
By the way, they have a jersey, a Kingery jersey hanging.
I saw.
You look. Yeah, I ended up.
No. I'd buy a jersey again.
They have a 75% off rack, which is something that I think is really cool. I haven't seen that at some other Rally houses. It was 75% rack.
I think they've sold out of the jersey because for a while they did have the jerseys there, but they were still too much.
Liv wants a new Sixers jersey, so I was looking in there. She wanted the brotherly love. She wants a brotherly love maxi.
Well, Liv's got money.
That's what I told. Well, I mean, now Santa Claus I can put a word in.
That's true.
His ear.
But I mean, if
they
she
didn't
wants
have
it,
it, but it was great.
She can get it now.
Hey, H&H Heating and Air Conditioning, thank you so much to my friends at DelcoHVAC.com. The Hoke brothers sending me today's hat. H&H Heating and Air Conditioning takes great care of you. I promise you that. John Kincade Show continues, and we have a Cooney's column coming up, which is going to allow you to save $2.95. You want to hear some insights from a guy who literally walked the NBA beat for years? We'll get to that coming up next. John Kincade.
Philadelphia.
It's getting close, guys. Not only Fan Fest on Saturday, but the Eagles starting their season Sunday, September 10th. 2 weeks from this Sunday. Well, you felt the other Saturday morning when I woke up Saturday morning and Liv and Christina were down to her apartment to get moved in, and I'm waiting for the movers to come to take the stuff. I was sitting outside, Bob. I had to go back in and get a Sixers pullover because it was too cold on the front porch. It was so beautiful on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It was one of the most, I thought it was like October 10th, like middle of October. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a nice weekend.
Right around the corner.
I love that football season's coming up. I hate that the summer's leaving, though. I hate that last night at 8:30 it was pitch dark. I hate that I come into work and we're here for a little while and it's still pitch dark when, we're getting glimpses of light at like 4:30 in the morning, but it's not happening anymore.
Yeah, it's done now.
Yeah.
It's done now. It'll be all right, though. Hey, if you snore, maybe you think you have sleep apnea, check out sleephealthypa.com. They could be the sleep solution that you're looking for. That's sleephealthypa.com. I love the fact that we are trying to save you money. Like in your budget every day, you figure out like what are you going to do? You don't need to spend $295. Not when you've got Cooney's column right here.
Let's
free.
turn the page and find out what's in Cooney's column.
I will never try to convince anyone, nor myself, that I'm a good businessman. It's why I've made a living writing and talking about sports, because I've learned my limitations, I think. Now, let me watch a sporting event and dissect the competition, and I'm in my comfort zone. Not that I'm always going to be correct on my analysis, but at least I'll feel comfortable trying to do so. So when it comes to the James Harden situation, I kind of turned a blind eye when it comes to the aspect of the business side of parting with Harden or keeping him. I'm a little turned off to that side of things, but will obviously keep myself educated on it. So my focus goes to the on-the-court side of the situation, and that seems to be just as complicated to me right now. Joel Embiid is going to be your starting center, and Tyrese Maxey is going to be another starter on the floor. After that, yeah, Tobias Harris is still here, but is he going to be when the season opens in Milwaukee on October 26th? How comfortable is anyone having P.J. Tucker as a starting forward? We all love the hustle and physicality that he brings, but can this team afford to have a starter that offers literally nothing on the offensive end of the floor? Without Harden, who's your starting point guard? Tyrese Maxey isn't that. And if they try to force him there, then who is your scoring guard? In DeAnthony Melton, you have, in my opinion, a terrific bench player who can provide the exact spark you want for an NBA team. Could he start? Sure, but it significantly depletes a bench that isn't exactly filled with difference makers right now. And let's not forget there's a new head coach in town. In Nick Nurse, the hope was to surround him with players willing to play the type of game he incorporated in Toronto. That's a game that is predicated on team basketball with a lot of movement, both from the players and the basketball itself. Does this team right now seem to be built that way? Of course not. In fact, I don't know of a way this team is built at all. And that's a real problem with training camp being just a little more than a month away. If I were to want to learn to be the businessman that I am not, I don't know where I would start. But I certainly know where I wouldn't start, and that would be with the 76ers and being in the business of fixing this current situation.
I worry about Nick Nurse.
I feel like he's coming in, sorry, John, that he's coming in and they're saying, we need you to make you're a chef, an executive chef, and we need you to make a grand meal for, 20 of the most important people in the world, and here's a salt shaker.
Do you believe he maybe got bait and switched a bit?
I don't think so, because
he thought Harden would be here because he talked about it a lot. He in interviews, he talked about James being there.
Well, here's the funny thing on it.
Even though he doesn't fit.
There it is. He does not fit with a Nick Nurse team.
No, not at all.
Does not
all the
fit
movement,
with a Nick Nurse
he doesn't.
team. It was funny. We had cousins over yesterday to hang out, and my little cousin was dribbling a basketball and dribbling. And she's like, "Look, I can dribble," and she just kept dribbling. Her dad looks at her and goes, "My God, she's just like James Harden." Like just sitting there dribbling, all day long. So,
and she ignored the shot clock.
Yeah. I don't know what this team. I don't know what it is. Like who What is it right now? I don't. I would love to sit here and dissect. I don't like this guy there. I wish they would incorporate it. I know 2 starters right now. That's it. And we could say, yeah, Tobias Harris is going to be here. Okay. Did they really want him here, or did that just happen because they couldn't get rid of him?
Like, I would wonder if Nick wouldn't have minded tearing that Band-Aid off, too.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, but the thing is coming in, if you were to move, if they were to move from Tobias and James this year, that's a rebuild.
It sure is.
Even though you've got Embiid and Maxey, yeah, that's a rebuild.
I don't know who they're putting on the court this year. I mean, I guess Anthony Melton's a starter. B-Ball Paul, which I said to you guys a long time ago that I thought they might try him at the 4. I don't think it's a might. I think it's a have to now.
No, it's a have to. Is Melton a starter on a team that is expected to compete to win an Eastern Conference title, or a nice piece to a team that is expected to compete for the title? If you say he's a nice piece to have, I bet you Nick Nurse can get more out of him than Doc Rivers did.
Yeah,
I would believe he can.
D'Anthony Melton, to me, yeah, it's a great piece coming off the bench. If you have to force him in to start every once in a while, I understand that. And he could probably become a very good starter.
Right, exactly.
But as you said, if you're competing for an Eastern Conference, that's a guy I want coming off the bench. That's a guy, and look, he could even maybe play more minutes than one of your starters. But, man, this team is just so up in the air right now, and I don't even know where to start when you're trying to dissect them.
It's funny, Pat. We have one team in town coming out of training camp with really hardly any interesting stories and high expectations, and we got another team getting ready to go to camp that has high expectations and nothing going on.
The stories you have, you don't want.
It's
you said something like high expectations. I don't have high expectations for this team
anymore.
I know
you don't. I don't.
Maybe I'm weird with it, but I do wonder if the pulse of the fan base has the high expectations that you had previously. Like, what is the expectation level for this team?
I'm very excited to see what Nick Nurse can do, but I need to see what he has to work with. As you said, the ingredients.
I don't know if I can be excited to see what Nick Nurse can do because, like I said, you're asking a chef to make a great dinner with a couple grains of salt.
Let's see what Frank in Philadelphia has to say. Frank, good morning. You're on the Fanatic. How are you, buddy? Frankie?
Yes.
You're on air, buddy.
I'm good, man. Good morning. I'm just thinking. You're absolutely right. Like, there has to be some scheme or some plan that they have to fix this, right? Because he didn't react to being called a liar, and you're not hearing anything from the organization. Almost like they have to, because if not, that's suicide. Like, how do you go into a season with 2 starters? You know?
Well, now that you know, or at least you know from multiple sources and Woj, that the lie was they're not trading me. I think they're going to try to trade him, but I think that there's no reason for Daryl Morey to get into if you would, a peeing contest with James Harden. James Harden shows his level of maturity. I expect the guy running my organization to have a higher level of maturity. I don't want him going back and forth with Harden on it.
Right. I agree.
I want him to ignore James Harden, honestly.
Right. But my opinion is that they have to be working on something. They have to have some sort of plan.
I wish they had one. Bob, I wish you could just tell us what the plan could be.
I don't know. We've asked for Daryl Morey to, he's just not talking right now, and
I guess I can understand it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't know, and I can't believe training camp is only a little over a month away, and you're going to have this whole Harden thing hanging over your head. To me, you don't have really 5 starters right now. You don't have a backup point guard. You didn't plan for this to happen a little bit. It's absolute craziness. It really doesn't make make a lot of sense. It's almost like I want to go into training camp as a beat reporter and say, okay, here's my first story. But I'd be like, and you always have one when you go into a training, you always have one. This one, I'm kind of like, I don't know what the story is. I mean, Harden's the big story and all of that.
Absolutely.
Put that aside and you look at the basketball aspect of it, if the guy's going to be on the floor and who's going to be where, I don't know where to start, in all honesty. I just don't.
It's an incomplete. But Daryl Morey better have a plan. Or this thing has honestly been a bit of a disaster. his tenure here, and it's not all his doing. Some of it is the doing of Harden and Embiid in Game 6 and Game 7. But this has been a disastrous run for him. He's got to get something going.
Yeah, and I don't know what, where, how, who. I don't know any of it. And it's so far away from the closeness that they talk about and a lot of people talk about that they had of winning a second-round series. And look where you are now.
When you hear James Harden lied to about the trade thing, I sort of have a little more sympathy for James Harden. A little more. Because of the fact that, because of what Daryl Morey didn't have to say that he said. That he went out there and said, oh, no, well, we're not taking calls on James Harden right now. Because that's like, okay, we're playing hardball now. James, you got one choice. You're either coming in or you're not getting paid.
I guess that was the message that you referred to earlier.
That's what, like, to me, that would be, that's where, but I could feel a little more understanding of why James Harden reacted like he did. But it's clear, though, now he had no handshake agreement. He had no secret shake deal.
I still don't believe that.
Well, I mean, I think he would have told that he's feeding Woj everything. I think he would have told Woj, but they promised me a deal. He explained, his camp explained to Woj, no, it was about being taken off the trade market. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, he gets fined if he admits that, though.
Well, I mean,
he would get heavily fined if he admitted, oh, we took a handshake agreement, and he would. I mean, he might become like a napalm-ish.
As far as another franchise bringing him in?
If you're a franchise, I mean, why would you want to bring that guy in if he's just going to snitch?
Well, I don't know why in 3 years three teams in 3 years, 3.5 years, whatever it is. I don't know that you'd want him anyway. I mean, I don't know why team's going.
Some team took Andrew Bynum.
That is correct.
And then another team took Andrew Bynum.
Yeah, but didn't they take him because they thought at that point low risk, just take a flyer?
I mean, that could be James Harden at that point, though. It could be low risk flyer. But my point was, anytime you think, I don't know what team's going to want him. Yeah, there's some NBA team that wants talent. And it's somebody would take him.
Do you believe he's going to, like, I mean, what makes you, like, the last 2 playoff years you've gotten to watch James Harden? You've seen glimpses, but I don't know why anybody would think, yep, he's ready to elevate. And
it wouldn't necessarily be he's ready to elevate us to a championship. It would be he's going to get fans in the stands.
Okay,
it would be like,
and that's
when the Kings made that horrible trade with the Sixers, when the Sixers got Nick Stauskas and pick swaps and all that. It was to clear up cap space to get Rajon Rondo because they were opening up a new arena and they wanted fans in the stands. And they thought, man, Rajon Rondo, that's really going to move the needle. It would be a similar situation where there'd be some Charlotte, let's say, that would go, oh, we'll get James Harden and people will come.
Yeah.
No, not really.
No, I get you. I can understand that. He still is an entertaining player. I mean, I watched game 1 against the Celtics and thought, damn. And then I watched game 5 and I was like, that's crazy. And then I watched game 6 and game 7 and I'm like, okay, he is who I thought he is. It's like there's nights.
There are a handful of NBA players that can single-handedly win you a playoff game. A handful. And he won you 2.
I saw it.
Single-handedly. Won you 2. He's still a really good basketball player. We can't deny that. I hear you. I understand. I watched it too, and I know all the talk. He's still a really good basketball player. If he's in a different situation, can he get a team to a position of them, getting to where they want to be? Perhaps. I mean, I'd rather have him as my point guard than whatever other situation the Sixers have right now.
I think he's always going to be one of those people in life, and we all know them. Something's always not perfect for them. Something's always not. And I think it's a convenient way to not put the pressure on yourself and to say, well, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. He's constantly running from something or running. You're supposed to be running to something, not from something. He's a guy who runs from things. I like guys who run
maybe
to
at
things.
This point in his career, maybe. I mean, You don't average 35 points a game and be an MVP of a league and all of that stuff without having some killer mentality in you. Like I was front and center when he went for 50 against the Sixers, and there was nobody in this world that was stopping the guy that night. That's the talent that he was. That's the killer that he was. Does he still have that now? Here's got to be the scary part if you're James Harden. Are you like this close, and for people that aren't watching, like fingers spread closely apart, to being out of the NBA?
Yes, because of his demands of money. His constant asking out of teams.
I saw
we
people
haven't seen
on
anything
Twitter.
like this.
Yeah, I've seen people on Twitter saying he's going to be playing in China next year. He's going to collect money there, all of these things.
He says he loves the love that he gets in China.
Yeah, that's got to be a scary thought if you're James Harden. I would think that you may be close to, I don't know how to word it, but you may be close to outing yourself of the NBA.
When I hear James Harden talk about, look at all the love I get in China. I get all this love in China. Bull crap, dude. You got love here. You got absolutely loved on here. Game 6, I was in the building, and people were imploring you. Like, you got a huge ovation before. What love are you talking about in China? Like enough of this crap.
He can get love both places.
Yeah, but I'm saying he gets loved here.
He does.
He is loved here. He's talking about, man, I could play over here because look at all the love I get everywhere I go.
Yeah, I didn't take that as a slight of Philadelphia. I mean, they idolize their basketball players over there. Stephon Marbury went over there. He became a god. He got offered NBA contracts, turned him down because he loved China so much. I didn't necessarily take it as he doesn't get loved here. I think he gets well aware he gets loved here.
Well, I don't believe that was the message at all. I mean, we read it differently. I absolutely believe he's like, look, I got this. He's trying to come up with every option that I can go over here.
Well,
dude, go.
Once again, the fans aren't the enemy in this situation. The players aren't the enemy. In his mind, Daryl Morey is the enemy. It's one person keeping him from wanting to come back to Philadelphia, and it's Daryl Morey. Other than that, I mean, it's not me, you, Bob, the fans, Connor.
I think it might be Connor. No, Connor might be. I'm hearing some whispers, Pat.
All right.
Connor might be a part
of it. To reassess if he's a member of the show tomorrow.
Exactly. If it means getting James Harden back, we might have to part with Connor. Hey, the Phillies have a chance to bury the Giants in the wild card race. What would the Giants leaving town 5 games out mean? What would that mean? Would they make it? Would that bury the Giants once and for all? Or are you sitting there going, this team will, then they'll go out and lose to the Cardinals this weekend. A 9-game homestand begins over 11 days. You got 11 days. You got 10 of them. You get to sleep in your own bed. This is a perfect time for the Phillies to keep distance. I keep saying this. Oh, they're going to get the distance going. They didn't do anything this weekend. Giants go to the Braves, toughest team to play in baseball. They take 1 out of 3, and that's what the Phillies do against the lowly Nationals. So now they get a 2-game lead going into this series. It's perfectly set up. This is what a playoff series would look like. 1, 2, 3 games at home, same opponent, 3 consecutive days. I'm anxious to see how they react to a playoff type. This is sort of like playoff pressure.
Yeah,
with the Giants in town.
And you just want to feel that there's some type of consistency with this Phillies team.
Yes,
something, and it doesn't mean everything coming all together because rarely does that happen. We saw great pitching at the beginning of the year when there was limited hitting. Then we saw great hitting to overcome the subpar pitching, but it never just stays together all the time. And I haven't felt consistently good about this team all year. I haven't felt consistently bad either. It's just kind of riding the wave like Connor talked about earlier. That's probably good enough to get you a number 1 wild card. Okay, but coming to the playoffs, when you get there, inconsistency isn't going to cut it.
It's amazing.
It's just not.
The number 1 wild card, Pat, right now team, the Phillies, is trending to a worse record than they had last year when they were the number 3 wild card. Like the wild card this year, the 3 wild cards in the National League, I think they will remedy this down the stretch and get a little better. But you could have 3 wild card teams that are worse than last year's.
Yeah, at the end, though, I mean, are we really going to complain if they get in the playoffs? It doesn't
Absolutely
make me feel
not.
better
Absolutely
if they had a better record and they missed the playoffs. And as long as you get in, that's all I care about. It's weird. I'll say that. It's bizarre, but then again, we expected the Mets to be a lot better, and they're not. The Marlins have kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Like the shakeout of the division has been way different than we thought it was going to be. We knew the Braves were going to be good. Well, we also thought it was going to be the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies.
The Marlins, Pat, as you say, they're 11-22 in their last 33 games. And the Phillies right now are 3.5 games ahead of them. And they're 11-22. Diamondbacks, 12-22. You know, these are some Reds, 14 and 20.
Yeah, I mean, most of the teams we expected to come back down to earth have kind of come back down to earth.
And you kept talking about you thought the Diamondbacks would.
Yeah.
I was sort of buying into the Diamondbacks more.
I didn't buy into any of them. The one team I bought into more than anybody, I guess, would be the Marlins, just because they're like the kings of the outlier year.
Yeah.
Where like once every 10 years, they'll just go on a run and they'll be annoying and then they'll go back to obscurity.
All right, so let me ask both you guys this, since you both use this phrase buy into. Have you bought into the Phillies?
No. I'm not bought in.
No, I can't because of the pitching.
I just can't. Yeah, I can. I mean, they're not worthy of me buying into them, I don't think.
23 and 15? Can they do that over their last 38 games?
Absolutely.
That's 90 wins.
They could. They absolutely can.
They could.
They could. They're as I said, it's not they're not trending that way. Let's put it that way.
No,
they're 19 and 18 in 37 games.
Yeah, about 20 games ago, I told you guys this off air. A friend of mine called me and said, "Dude, I did the one loss for each series, each game, and broke it down to win 2 or 3, lose 2 or whatever." And he came out with 88. And he was steadfast on it. And after these 20 games, it's playing out exactly the way he said so far.
Did he have him losing 2 series to the Nats? They lost 2 series in 3 weeks.
Yeah, so he broke it down as like, you're going to win 2 out of 3 here, but you're probably going to lose 2 out of 3 there, so whatever. But it's exactly breaking down the way he said. And his conjecture was 88 wins.
Well, my conjecture was you're not losing. You can lose a series a year to the Nats when you're the Phillies. I didn't think they'd be losing 2 series in 3 weeks to a bad Nats team.
Yeah, but they're winning somewhere, I guess. Like Connor said, it wouldn't surprise me if they went 21 and 17 in these last 38, right? Well, and that takes you to 88.
Well, we did it the other day. Versus the 6 division leaders, they're 8 and 16. So they're not like the teams you might face in the playoffs. You're 8 and 16 against them. So you don't play well against them. It's just a mediocre year. Can it turn on at a playoff time? Maybe. But we'll see. It's like a playoff series this week, and Gabe Kapler's in town, which always motivates people in this area. Seems to get them fired up. Pat's got lotion in there.
I don't have the lotion. Does Bob. Bob's got it.
You have what's it, coconut oil?
I've got ice cream.
Lotion. I don't think I brought it today.
Got ice cream that I'm spitting out.
Coconut oil. Yeah, you get the taste of it. Which, by the way, I would think that doesn't work.
Taste coconut oil?
No, he would have the ice cream and spit it out.
Oh.
But I would still think you get calories doing that.
Spitting it out? I don't know.
I would think
you get more if you swallow.
Yeah, you don't.
That's disturbing.
Why'd you stop talking?
That's disturbing.
Because I'm so mad at myself for stepping all over that sound drop.
If you eat a pint of ice cream as opposed to spitting it out, I assume when you consume it and swallow, you're gonna get more calories.
So you swallow, you don't spit.
I think that Gabe Kapler's just a kook. He's a kook.
It's one way to put
Bottom line, he's a kook. Hey, and Pat's point of view is coming up. And wait till you hear what he thinks about the Little League broadcast. I heard he applied to do next year's game. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, at FanDuel Casino, we know the only thing better than a win is a free win. And that's why they made Reward Machine
97.5 The Fanatic. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Hopefully you're having a great Monday. The John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic. At Staples, school savings are always in session. From art supplies and essentials to the latest tech, in stock and price low. School on, save on at your local Staples store. And bravo to our own Tyrone Johnson and Ricky Batalico out Saturday at the new Rally House in Wynwood. By the way, Pat, which I hear is awesome. Great new store over there. They were out there collecting the school supplies for the teachers, and they ended up with bin after bin after bin. It was great to hear.
I drove by that location yesterday.
I'm very anxious to see it. In fact, I may stop by on take the drive home that way. Just I'm getting tired of the Schuylkill.
Your old neighborhood.
Yeah, tired of the Schuylkill.
Maybe you pick up some Chinese food.
I'm not going to do that.
Why?
Just not going to do it.
You're driving.
It's too far.
You've complained about getting good Chinese food. If you're driving in the area of Chinese food that you like, why wouldn't you pick it up?
Because I'm
out of principle.
No, right now, remember, there's things that just don't taste right, maybe. So I'm just gonna. There's things that I find it tastes right. I'm like fish.
Put some salt on it.
I told Bob today. So you try to say they say, limit your red meat if you're a colon cancer patient when you're done. Hopefully, you'll limit it. So you get like an A. I was reading this one piece. Like you get an A if you have 4 servings a month. You get an A. You get a plus 4 servings a month. You get an A if you do 5 servings a month. All these kind of things. So I told my wife fish. Then she's like, "Well, if you have too much fish, you get mercury." And I asked Bob this morning. I said, so wait a minute. You say yep? You've heard this?
Jeremy Piven from Entourage. He had mercury poisoning from eating too much sushi.
No, okay. Now I'm not talking.
He had so much sushi that he ended up developing a mercury poisoning. He was doing a tour on Broadway and like a play, and he had to be hospitalized.
Okay, now I'm talking about more white fish. I'm more talking about like fish fillets.
You have to eat a
fish fillets.
Ridiculous amount.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Yeah, you're safe. But my point is, if you just start shoveling, sushi in your mouth like you're a whale.
I do like some
whales
sushi.
Get poisoning? Do they get mercury poisoning?
Yeah, do they?
They're so big. I don't think so.
Do they have funerals?
They don't.
They
the
don't.
only animal, and we learned that earlier. If you missed the show,
yeah,
the only animal that will have a funeral like humans is an elephant.
Well, we're killing the Jersey ones with the turbines, but they haven't figured that out yet. They'll figure it out soon. Hopefully, no more wash up. They keep washing up on the beach. You haven't seen them?
Are elephants?
No elephants.
Well, no, they can't swim. No wonder they're washing up.
We're talking about elephants, and all of a sudden you're talking about them wash. It's like this is an alarming.
No, we were saying whales. I said it's too much too. Hey, did you see the video of Jackie Bradley Jr.? I'm gonna repost it. Jackie Bradley Jr. of the Brewers he stands on the first base line right outside home plate and throws a ball over the center field fence.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Okay, that's freaking wild to me. Like that's something that I would go, you're not doing that. That a ball is not traveling that far. Now he had to stand behind it and literally like hop to get the energy, going, the propelling or whatever he needed of the ball to get it out there. But it's wild. I mean that is an amazing throw. If I'm the manager, if I'm Craig Counsell, I'm saying, excuse me, are you trying to hurt your shoulder?
So if it's 420 feet, say to dead center, something like that, that's 140 yards.
That's incredible to me. Now that's incredible.
That's pretty good.
I watched Michael Vick early in his career, as a young man, horsing around. And one day, I don't know how far the ball went, but he threw a ball from the end zone so far down the field. And we were at one of the colleges it was training camp in South Carolina, one at the military school where they had it. And he threw the ball so far, I've never seen anything like it in my life. And then here comes Dan Reeves. What are you doing? Stop it. And he's like, but coach, I'm just trying. And he's like, and the veterans were goading him on to see how far he could throw it. And he literally, Dan Reeves comes down, and I thought Dan Reeves was going to get in a backwoods bar fight with these people. He was going to punch somebody. Stop it, Michael. Don't do that. You're going to hurt your shoulder. And I never saw the ball fly further.
Yeah, well, I remember before a practice one time in high school, we grabbed all the balls and we were like taking half-court shots and doing silly stuff, and our coach came out and he's like, shoot from where you are during a game all the time.
Right.
My friend Glenn went and sat on the bench and started shooting from there.
Great way to make your point.
Pretty funny. Yeah.
Hey, great way to make your point to the coach.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I think it's a nice statement of the coach.
I thought it was pretty funny. He laughed himself.
Pat said something sort of sucked last night in the game, but he did like something about the Little League.
This is Pat's point of view. Here's Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Hello.
How you doing, buddy?
All right.
You all right?
Hi, Patty.
Last night's game sucked.
It did, yes. That's a good way to say it.
There's just no getting around it. You give up 4 runs to the Nationals, and your offense just acts like their pitching is lights out. It was painful to watch, but it could have been worse. It could have been more painful had it not been for the broadcast. I watched the regular broadcast. I didn't watch the kids' broadcast because nothing against the kids. I have no interest in listening to like 10-year-olds call a game. But I listened to the regular Carl Ravitch, Jessica Mendoza, and I was...
Was that much better?
It was, yeah.
It was?
Look, I wasn't a huge fan of this Little League thing. Just, it was kitschy to me, and, you know, I recognize it's cool for the kids, but for me, I was like, I'm getting nothing out of this. And then I turned on the broadcast, and I actually found myself being pretty entertained during what normally would have been a very frustrating watch for me. Now, I was still frustrated. You probably heard that if you were listening at 6 a.m. I was still very frustrated, but I found it interesting of like the mic'd up players, hearing Bryce talk, hearing Nick Castellanos talk, even the awkwardness of these little leaguers asking questions, and then none of them had a follow up because you could tell they planned for one.
Yeah.
One
Do you have
question
anything else?
No. Yeah. It was. I mean, like the game last night wasn't a good watch, but it ended up being. Yeah, okay because of the Little League broadcast, and I'm not somebody that was into it, but I'm wondering if I'm alone on this. If anybody was kind of swayed by the idea of this Little League game, and mainly it was because of the outcome and your entertainment level. Nothing against the local broadcast. I like T-Mac a lot, obviously, but in a normal situation, if they're getting shut out by the Nationals and they can't muster any offense whatsoever, I mean, I'm like ready to jump out a window. And in this situation, I was pissed off, but I was also interested of, all right, is anyone else going to be mic'd up? Are they going to ask any more questions? So they had enough distractions for me to distract from the actual game itself, which I enjoyed.
I wonder if it distracts from you actually being able to compete in the game and go about your business because it's so different.
I did wonder that. And I would lean towards the answer being no, because a lot of the guys have probably already done it at this point, and they wouldn't agree to do it if they thought it would be. Now, like Bryce, prime example.
There is an obligation for a certain number of players to do it.
But you can also, I mean, you can hide people. Like you can do, I mean, like the left fielder, for example, you can do that because
I guess so.
Yeah, that's a spot that probably you're not getting a ton of action. Like they always seem to do an outfielder, like Nick Castellanos last night. Doing Bryce Harper at first base, where you're pretty much involved in every single play, I found very interesting.
I thought that was surprising too. Yeah,
it's like crazy.
And I've seen Francisco Lindor do it with the Mets before during the Phillies broadcast. Like they do have these positions that are high intensity positions that they agree to it. I mean, like let's be real. If Bryce Harper doesn't want to do it, he's not doing it. It's
right? Exactly.
But he does. He speaks very eloquently, and he's a great representative of the organization, and he says all the right things. And it was like cool to listen to, and I was like shocking. I shocked myself at how much I enjoyed it.
I will even expand on that, saying I thought the whole day was terrific. So you had the media team play at 11 in the morning. Turn that on, and then they show the Phillies getting off the plane and loaded onto buses. And they come out and they let them out, at Williamsport, and they're slapping hands with the players and stuff, or, the little kids. And then they go into the stadium and start cheering for the media team.
That was awesome.
Like, that is incredible. And then they talk about, they got to get back on the bus by 2 because they have to go back to their hotels and get themselves ready, to play a game, which you understand. And then they show there's Bryce Harper staying till the very end. And then talking to the team afterwards saying, look, I know how gut-wrenching a loss is, and him getting emotional, saying, look, it hurts now, but it's going to make you better people in the long run. Like, I thought the whole day, and then them playing, and you see, like, houses in the background, like they're in the downtown Williamsport playing a baseball game, a professional baseball game, I thought the whole thing was great, and the only thing that ruined it was
The Phillies'
the
performance.
Phillies' performance. Yeah,
Bryce Harper, though, there's not many things that he doesn't do well. I mean, as a player, as an ambassador for the game, he may be the game's best ambassador of any player.
yeah. I think he
is
just
so-
loves the game.
He does, but he loves kids. He loves charming. And by the way, if you're one of those people on Twitter getting on Bryce Harper because he says how much he misses being away from his family when he travels. Yes, I know Bryce Harper makes a hell of a lot more money than you did or I do or the traveling salesman does. Does that change how much he misses his family?
No,
And
I say that all the time. I don't care if you have someone that can help out your wife because you have so much money and all this stuff, and that comes up a lot. Look, I think as a person, there's still people. You may have a maid, you may have somebody that helps take care of your kid. It doesn't mean you love your family any less.
Like, why would you take issue with the Bryce Harper? Like Bryce Harper expresses, when he's on the road, he really misses being around his kids.
Yeah,
like,
cool.
why would you take issue with that?
I mean,
why
like,
would people are just being d-bags?
I didn't.
They really are. That's what they do.
It's not cool, but it humanizes the players. Where it's like it's something that I don't think the everyday fan might think about.
Right.
And I don't think he did it intentionally to be like, oh, life's so hard for me. But it's a reality. He's right. You're missing birthdays. You're missing first steps. You're missing first words. And there's a human angle to these guys aren't robots.
And I don't care if they're staying in the Ritz-Carlton or where Chuck D'Amico put us up in Arizona.
Is their life a little bit easier than of course, yes. But it doesn't mean that, look, you give someone the best job in the world. If you can think of the best job in the world, that person is going to have complaints about it. It's the old adage of like, give me the hottest girl in the world and I'll show you someone who's sick of her. Like it's similar situation with women, men, jobs,
right?
Like everything. And with this, yes, they get paid millions of dollars, but it's also to them, for some of them, not Bryce, but some of them, it's a job, and it's a job that takes them away from their family. And for that, I feel for him, for sure.
I love the fact that he makes that money, Pat, though, and it's a joy for him to come to work.
I'll tell you.
It's a joy for him to put a little extra into the Little League World Series obligations that they had yesterday. That tells me everything I need to know about Bryce Harper.
He is a guy who just gets it.
Yep.
And he talked about in the broadcast last night of these are the future. Like these guys, let's be real. Some of these guys are going to be playing in Major League Baseball, and we all know it because every year let's take a look at, this kid who was in the Little League World Series 10 years ago, and look where he is now. He's, starting Major League fill in the blank. So he's right, but he also gets the whole growing the game and being a good ambassador and being a good role model. And the whole thing too, like a couple weeks ago when they're doing the pictures with fans and he finds a little boy that's crying and, goes over and helps him find his brother. Like he just gets it.
Yep.
He's a really, really good ambassador for the team.
8 o'clock hour of the John Kincade Show gets started here on 97.5 The Fanatic. I really miss it, though, when it's not T-Mac. Like, I just, like, to me, I want to see some, I want the Phillies broadcasters. And it's too hard to sync it up. It's too hard trying to sync it up with the radio broadcast or anything. It just doesn't, it's almost impossible to do. I like hearing the regular broadcast. I don't understand why they need the Sunday night football. I think the Sunday night baseball broadcast is the worst broadcast of baseball I have ever experienced. I don't need three. First of all, I don't need three people in the booth. Like, I don't enjoy Sundays with Schmitty. I'm just being honest. I don't enjoy because it just seems like there's too many people there. And I think they complicate baseball broadcasts big time.
I gotta say, when I listen to national games, I really don't pay that much attention. I've said this before to announcers. I find I do. The local guys, I do. I listen and I hear what they're saying because I think they're full of good information and all of that. But yeah, Carl Ravitch, I know, but I couldn't tell you who the other guys were. I couldn't tell you who the guests they had were.
And Jessica Mendoza.
Yeah, good. I nothing against them. I'm not saying it.
Right.
I just don't listen. They're not going to tell me anything really more that I need to know about the Phillies and the Nationals that I'm not seeing with my own eyes.
I actually like it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
I hate that broadcast Sunday nights
all the time. But when I get something regularly, I do like switching it up and getting a national perspective of it.
Eduardo Perez last night, before the end of the first inning, said twice that the Phillies have been red hot. That's awful. That's awful. And I like Eduardo. He's a really good dude. But that's terrible preparation. He said it twice. Phillies have been red hot. No, they haven't. Yeah, no, they haven't been, Eduardo. They haven't been, and that's where you got all week for this broadcast. It's 1 week. It's one game a week. You got to know that the Phillies have not been red hot, and I hear that, and I want to turn it off. He's not paying attention.
Not the best lead up, but
he said it twice.
He's got to hype up the game, or else if he probably. The wording of it wasn't good.
Phillies have been red hot. I'm like, what's he watching?
They probably say that regarding every single week because you're not going to come in and go, man, this team's been playing crap baseball. Make sure to tune in for the next 3 hours and watch it.
No, I think you could say, hey, the Phillies are leading the wild card race.
That's my point. The wording's poor, but I'm not going to rip them for trying to hype up the one of the two teams because and they did the same thing by the way yesterday with the Nationals.
Nobody wants to play the Nationals.
During the game, it was, the Nationals are playing great baseball recently. The Nationals. They even went and asked Davey Martinez, who's going to finish fourth, the Nationals or the Mets? As if that's some pinnacle that you just can't even fathom.
Did you see Martinez's reaction to that, though?
Yeah, he's
sort of like,
we're playing really good baseball, and some of our kids are starting to turn around.
But he's like,
cool, man.
Yeah, he's like excited. He should be excited. That's a good young team.
Yeah, they're up and coming. They're getting better. Yeah, all of those things that he said on there. Does Ravitch also do all the Little League games?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So imagine that. You're doing Little League all week long, and then you have a Sunday night broadcast to do, too.
Carl Ravitch is totally prepared.
I love Carl Ravitch.
And you know who's great on the Little League coverage is Foudy. Is that her name?
Julie Foudy.
Julie Foudy, the one that does the sideline things.
Yeah, she's good.
Absolutely phenomenal. One of my favorite things besides the kids playing about the whole coverage of it.
I like the question and answer things that they put up with the kids, where they let them answer the questions. Yeah. I love that. I love seeing who's your favorite player, who's your.
Well, that was one thing that ESPN did cool last night was they were doing that with the pro players.
Right.
I thought that was funny.
That was really, really good.
Yeah, and it all brings it back to let's remember what this is. It's a kid's game. It's baseball. It's fun. It's all that. I thought ESPN did a pretty good job of tying it all together yesterday.
And then people were clutching their pearls on Twitter going, Trey Turner said he would like to meet Elon Musk. Oh, my gosh. Oh, this is terrible. Yeah, that's what he said.
Elon Musk.
That's what he said.
A couple words for him.
Yeah, exactly. You have a couple words. You have maybe a loan. Maybe a trip to space.
Tweeting at him ain't working, so yeah, I'd like to meet the guy.
Would you go into space?
I just have.
No, would you go into space if offered?
No,
I would not either.
No,
I would not do one of those.
Absolutely not.
No.
I'm not absolutely trying that. Hey, the Eagles don't have a lot of questions left. So if I asked you to go waiver wire shopping this weekend and you get one position group, Bob, I think you sort of tipped your hand earlier of where you'd definitely be shopping. And I think I'd probably be apt to agree with you.
Yeah, they're going to have to get a linebacker in here, if for nothing else, depth, but probably to compete, to play alongside of Nakobe Dean.
I think Cunningham's going to have that job to start.
Yeah, I do too. And that's also concerning because, like you like to say, John, nobody else signed him. He was just picked up like off the, I don't want to say scrap heap, but yeah, sitting at home and boom, here you go. Here's your, it's almost like it goes back to the process when Brett Brown would say, I'm starting him tonight and I haven't met him yet.
Oh, geez.
And that was a case a lot of times. Yeah. Tim Frazier should be here during shoot around. I haven't met him yet, but he is going to start tonight and get 30 plus minutes.
How'd they learn the sets that fast? Or is it just?
Yeah, they didn't have
seriously,
any.
They didn't.
No, you get the ball and run and shoot. To me, it's concerning. It I think you do need a significant somebody in the middle there, not just an anybody. And I guess Pat said it earlier, and I guess he's right. They're probably going to address it at some point.
Pat,
the point's getting closer and closer.
Well, by Sunday, I believe. All the preseason games are done by Sunday. And then they cut down the rosters. And now all the teams cut the rosters the same day. So everybody is out on the streets. I would imagine that Howie's already sizing up, Pat. He's probably looking. And you talked about the safety corner room a little bit.
Yeah.
You think it's too young?
I just don't think there's any depth there. Like, if one of these guys goes down, who's stepping in?
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's a fine problem to have if we're complaining about depth, but
Until someone gets injured.
I mean, and you've already seen they've cut Greedy Williams, who was the odd man out. Fine, no loss there. That was a flyer. But Zach McPherson going down. Okay, he was probably a special teamer anyway, but still, he's a backup. They need something there. They need some depth. And the three positions I look at that don't have a lot of depth are defensive end, cornerback, safety, just the secondary in general, and then linebacker.
Well, one of the things that they talked about, and I saw that Andrew Pacheco from Inside the Birds and everything was talking about it, the idea of they're looking at Nolan Smith being able to be that like hybrid guy that can take snaps there too at linebacker. Sean Desai has a different mentality on it. I need to know we get another traditional veteran linebacker in here. And again, I'm not doubting that I do believe Nakobe Dean's going to do a good job, but I got to see it. I have to believe it. And also, too, with his size, as Bob brought up earlier, I do wonder about durability. He played in the best conference against the best talent in the country. So he played against big boys and managed to, hold himself up. But I still think the NFL the NFL, the closest thing to the NFL is the SEC. But the SEC is not the NFL, period. So I want to see it, and I want to see him hold up because I worry about it. Those collisions are pretty nasty.
They are. His size is a concern. It has been since he was, playing in college, and people were wondering whether it was going to translate to the NFL. Sometimes you look at a guy and he just looks, I'm not going to say out of place, but he does look small to me. I can look at a piece of paper and see,
right.
All right, 5'11", 234, whatever it may be, fine. But, sometimes guys look the part anyway. He just looks small to me. He does. And I don't know. I hope that my starting linebacker who's calling plays and all can stay out there for every snap, being as he's the one calling the defenses.
Yeah, I mean, and it concerns me too is what if he goes down?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're putting this much on his plate also. And we don't know that the learning curve isn't going to be that sometimes with a young player, the learning curve is, okay, you're struggling a little bit. Let's let you watch. Let's get you in. We'll get you in a rotation, let you watch a little bit, and then by the time week 9, week 10 comes around, you're ready.
Right.
That could be the case this year. I mean, we have to you can't just think and assume that it's going to be perfect. The Eagles have put a lot of faith in him, though. And I know this, Kirby Smart put a lot of faith in him and believed in him, and he was a 3-year permanent captain. Voted as a permanent captain his sophomore year.
Maybe
that rarely happens.
Size thing is one of the reasons why he dropped.
Oh, it is.
I can't get over the whole him dropping in the draft and going from a potential first-round pick to a third. Everybody points to this phantom injury that we never heard hide nor hair about leading up to the draft or really after the draft in terms of the Eagles finding anything. He gets taken, and we all think we got a steal. Great, but there is the fear that maybe he got dropped to the third round because of what Bob's talking about. He's too small, and people didn't think his body would hold up to the NFL. The grueling nature of the NFL. I mean,
and he's the guy with the most to prove.
But then again, the coaches love him. So
they do.
Yeah. What would surprise you more? That he becomes this undersized, really good middle linebacker that you can count on for the next few years, and he reaches our expectations, or he doesn't. Whether it be because of injury, whether it be because simply he's not able to hold down the position. What would surprise you more?
Him not being able to hold down the position.
Him being able not to hold down the position.
Okay. I don't know yet. I just don't know.
But I do not believe, Bob, that it is a foregone conclusion that he is going to be elite. He was elite in the SEC.
Yeah,
he was arguably one of the best defensive players in the entire conference. I can't just translate that and say that will translate to the NFL. I've seen too many players come out.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
There's somewhere in between elite and everyday player. Or elite, maybe even under everyday player. He's probably gonna get a chance to be something in between.
One of the smartest players ever, as Kirby Smart says, one of the smartest players he's ever coached. And this is a guy who is an engineering degree early. He's a brilliant young man, and he is incredibly rootable. He's a really good dude, I almost feel guilty having doubts, but I think you got to have doubts. I'd have doubts about another rookie. I'd have doubts about if you told me there was another undersized linebacker being given the green dot in charge of it all. I'd have doubts with him too.
I have doubts about Jordan Davis, and I saw something from him last year.
Absolutely. And it's all right to have doubts.
You should have doubts about just about every rookie. I mean,
right.
Doubt is a little more hard of a word than questions.
You're right.
I have questions about it. Doubt makes me believe I don't think they can do it. I have to see it. Questions is I don't know either way yet.
You are correct. All
right, I got to give
questions. I don't have doubts.
I got to give a shout out real quick. I just got a text message from my cousin Lainey.
Hi, Lainey.
She's 6. She wants to know if she's the youngest listener of our show.
I would say so.
She said she's locked into the show.
She's locked in
getting ready for camp.
What kind of camp is Lainey going to?
She told me she does arts and crafts, a whole bunch of different things. Yeah, so
Bob,
Jack listens at 4.
Jack listens at 4, but it's not. Their family for all 4 hours and every day. Yeah.
What does Jack have to say about the show, Pat?
It's not good.
Really, just as he's really not.
It's not good what he says, or he says it's not good.
Like, can we put on music, please? These guys don't know sports.
Lainey's ready to go to camp.
Yeah,
I loved summer camp.
She swam in my pool yesterday for like 2 hours straight. I was exhausted just watching her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to be a kid.
It is fun.
And I'm telling you, that's all this baseball talk that we had about Williamsport and all. That's what I took out of this weekend. Like, I was just so happy to see, like, okay, this is great. People are remembering that it's a kid's game. That it should be fun. That you have adults, and when we talk about the players, they're going and watching these kids. They have kids their own that are about that age. Castellanos' kid, Liam, he's probably going to be playing Little League in the next couple of years. So they're going to be doing that.
He already does,
as father.
Doesn't he?
Probably. I guess he's about
11.
10. Is he 11? Okay.
I think he's 11.
So another year he'll be the Little Leaguer, yeah.
I mean, seriously, and he's become a little star all his own. So.
He certainly has.
All right, we have a playoff series beginning tonight in town, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. But I want you to reminisce a little bit coming up about the guy who's managing the other team. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, snap into
So Bob and Connor are trying to be like Jackie Bradley Jr. or something.
We were trying to throw with our opposite hands.
And your opposite hand's bothering you today.
To see, well, I have carpal tunnel. But we were trying to see if we could look natural at all throwing left. We're both right-handed, throwing left-handed. And it's not easy.
No.
I was taught, I could, around the basket, I used my left hand a lot when I was playing basketball. I could do that fine. But, throwing, I would love to be able to throw well left-handed, but I just can't. And Connor looks worse than I do, actually.
I told you that I was part of one of those kids that back in the day, and Pat, you escaped this, and there are probably others in the audience that had it, that I had to have my hand tied to the desk because I had to learn to write with my right hand. Because I wanted to write with the left, and they wanted me to write with my right. So they wanted me to write with my right hand, and I was fiddling with it. So literally I had a little piece of rope with a crucifix on it, and they would tie the hand down to the desk. So when I write like this because my brain's like, I want to be a lefty, but it was broken of being a lefty. It's the weirdest thing.
That is odd.
Ever. They didn't want people back in the day, some of the, I guess, thought it was a bad thing to use your left.
It was witchcraft is what it was.
I'd say it was. No, I'd say it was stupid because they stopped doing it. So somebody finally realized, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? Now, I got a very good education, but that was not a very good thing.
For educators to think tying a child down in any way was a smart thing to do.
Well, they weren't tying me down. They were tying my hand down.
What did they tie it to?
The
How
desk.
did they tie it?
You know how the desk had your old desk? Remember we had the rows of desks?
Yeah.
Like it was like two long skis, and the desks were all screwed into the row. And then the desks were set up so it was like a curved desk. So they would take it and go, okay, put it around the edge, and use this hand to write with. And by the time Miss Owens came along, or maybe it was Mrs. Pascucci, I didn't have to do it. So it was stupidity, is what I would say.
Wow.
When you think that?
Sister stupidity?
No, it wasn't sister stupidity.
Oh. Sister
Joseph was a little mean.
No, it's dumb.
It's dumb.
It's idiotic.
It's dumb. And I have no reason why it was done, but there we go.
It's,
I somehow survived. So, but I write very weirdly. I have to literally stick my elbows goes out this far, and I write like I'm trying to be like cockeyed. It doesn't make any sense.
Have you tried writing with your left hand?
I have. I can barely do it. Barely. But I can't make it in any way legible where I would consider it legible, which is not fun. So I try to just type now. I print too, Pat. Because of it, I printed. Because cursive actually hurts.
Oh, let me tell you. I don't know one person that uses cursive.
That uses cursive
You
writing?
want to talk about a straight up waste of time?
Well, they don't teach it anymore, do they?
I don't know.
You're going to learn it. You're going to find out when your kids go to school.
Yeah, when I was in school, we had to learn cursive.
Yes.
And it's like you had this. You were taught and you believed that you weren't an adult until you learn cursive, and you gotta. It's like, oh well, I'm not professional, and I gotta be an older kid, and I gotta learn cursive because all these adults and all these older kids, they use cursive, and then you get to I don't know, high school, and you're like, no one uses this.
Well,
this is dumb.
Bob and I, Bob, you may remember. I remember classrooms with the cursive writing along the top of the.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we had that.
Capital.
You had that too? Yeah, they would teach you how to do it. So I do not like having a cursive write. It's not a fan of it either. I'll type everything out. It's fine. Type it for you. Hey, if your basement or your crawl space smells musty, or you've got watermarks on the block walls, you need to get a completely free home inspection from the experts. Call BQ Basements and Concrete because the problem's only going to get worse. Connor, come in here for this one because the Phillies open a playoff series tonight. And it mirrors exactly what a wild card series is going to look like. And Connor's one of those people who thinks the Giants could be that team that you face, which makes it important as you go into this series. So you would play right now. It would be October 3rd. Let me just give you the dates just so you have it for yourself. October 3rd, 4th, 5th. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series that would be here in Philadelphia, and they would host it if they were the top wild card, and they would face a team potentially like the Giants. So how do you approach a series in August? Is this, I don't know, the topper ever really lights a fire, But how do you approach this series? Because Gabe Kapler's going to approach this like a playoff series.
Right. Here's why this is more important to me than normal. Because normally I would be the guy who comes in here and says, it's just another 3 games. You want them, but if you don't have them, it's whatever. Don't make grand proclamations about it or anything. You got swept by them at their place earlier on in the year. So if you struggle with them in Philly, it goes from we can't play in San Francisco to this team might be a problem for us for some reason. So that's why it's super important. So I don't know if it's Thompson saying that, but you better believe that every player in that locker room knows that this series matters.
Do I believe that, though? Because I've heard that at least from the people who are in the locker room most often, is that Bryce Harper's not a real vocal leader, Bobby. Is that he's not a rah-rah vocal leader. He's a lead by example guy. Here's the way you go about your business. Here's the way I work. But he's not a speech guy.
Well, I mean, do professionals need speeches? Do they need to be told where you are, what's going on? I mean,
I sort of feel this team does. This team, the way they sleepwalk through week after week, I think they do. I think this team is sleepy. 21 innings in a 3-game series against the Nationals, not scoring. By the way, thanks to the Washington Post for this one. That's the first time they posted 21 scoreless innings in a 3-game series. Phillies are giving the Phillies. They have a bad approach to the plate. I don't know what JT did last night after Jake Cave home run. I mean, look, Jake. It seems like a lot of games, and it was somebody brought it up on Twitter last night. A lot of games seem to be ending with JT Realmuto and a bad at bat. A lot of
that wasn't great, especially the last pitch. I hear you that there is sometimes it does seem like they need a kick in the ass, and I don't know if Thompson's one that does it, should do it, needs to do it. Somebody on the team, whatever. Baseball's a hard sport, though, to be like, show me you got some fire under you, because you bat 4 times a game. You might be facing a really good pitcher. You hardly have the ball hit to you. Like, it's just hard to find that fire sometimes. And, yeah, I agree with you that sometimes this team looks like they are missing it.
Pat, do you miss Gabe Kapler?
No.
Do you think Gabe Kapler would have a better record right now than Rob Thompson with this same squad?
No.
Because I know some people that are huge Gabe Kapler truthers. I don't get it, Connor. I don't understand it, because I think he did a mediocre job at best.
Yeah, I don't think he's as bad as we treated him when he was here. I don't think he would have worked in this city because of his temperament and his style. And I don't think he's as good as some people who are really into what he's done with the Giants think he is. Like, he's just a middle-of-the-road manager. I don't know. I don't really have too many thoughts about Gabe Kapler one way or the other.
I thought his first season he overachieved with a bad roster. And his second season, they completely missed the playoffs because of him.
And he overachieved in San Francisco his second year.
I think he still has overachieved, yeah. I mean, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a baseball fan who can name that starting 9.
No.
It's just, I mean, and even their rotation,
the Phillies should dominate.
They should.
A team like the Giants.
Yeah, they should.
They should. They're better at, is it safe to say starting 8? They are better at 6 positions? They should be better. Well, they should be better at 6 positions if you're just going name on the card.
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are the teams you got to start beating up on. You got to this is going to give you the security, because the Cubs are charting. I don't know if they can catch them.
Yeah,
but the Cubs are charting.
But by your numbers, they beat the middle of the road teams. Hey, this is a middle of the road team.
Yeah, this is it.
They've been handling them.
This is it.
To me, the biggest thing is just the mentality of, if you struggle in this series, it goes from not we can't win in San Francisco to this team might be like that Marlins type team from years ago where you just don't play them well. So that's the big mental thing. You don't want to go into a playoff series against a team, a 3-game playoff series, having lost 2 3-game series to them in the regular season.
I can't believe this wild card race, though. I mean, Giants are 2 back. Cubs are 2.5 back. I thought the Cubs, that's the team that I think the Phillies will play in October. I think that's the team that's going to be good enough to get there. The Reds, the Diamondbacks, and the Marlins, though, are all just a game back of the Cubs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right there. I mean, they're just a game back of being in the postseason themselves, which is crazy to me.
It's funny how I don't find myself at all looking at other teams, because I don't have a grasp on who this Phillies team is yet. It's like I was talking about earlier. Like, I don't know who they are. I don't know where to have confidence. I don't know. what the badness of him is going to be consistently bad and vice versa the goodness. I just don't know who this team really is right now, and therefore I can't even look past them to other teams.
Connor, when you say that you think that Gabe Kapler didn't have the, what'd you say, temperament?
Temperament, yes.
Okay, what is that specifically, do you think?
All due respect.
Do you think Rob Thompson?
No, but here's the thing. He's a weirdo. Like, all due respect to Gabe Kapler.
No, he's weird.
Guy's strange. Rob Thompson's as normal as they come. We like normal, understated, quiet guys to manage teams in this city. Andy Reid, same way. I mean, Nick Sirianni, a little bit more boisterous, but he's a normal everyman. Gabe Kapler is not a relatable person. And in Philadelphia, we like relatability, especially to this city. And trust me, like you could see how much it weighed on him, how the fan base felt about him. When this fan base feels bad about you, it can tear people down.
Well, I just saw him completely. I just remember the first series that he was in. First series he ever managed, I was there in Atlanta, and he was horrendous in the first game and the third game. And literally, he got pissed at questions where people said, "Are you prepared for this job? Like, are you ready?" He wasn't.
John, he was booed in his home opening debut. The first series of the year in Philadelphia, the fan base was already booing the new manager. I mean, and it was because of that Atlanta series, like, understood.
It was all downhill from there. I mean, like, yeah.
By the way, he did it again. He did it again in a later series.
I think he did a pretty good job his first year, but it goes back to the Trey Turner thing. Like, we were excited for Trey Turner, so we're giving him the benefit of the doubt. Nobody was excited when they hired Gabe Kapler, and then his first game, he goes out and has a complete gaffe and starts throwing in pitches that weren't
takes Nola out at
it was like 64 pitches,
something like that, which was terrible.
And because of that, we couldn't get over it as a fan base. That when he actually overachieved and won more games than he probably should have his first year, we still criticized him. And then, as I said, his second year, I can't defend.
Has a guy like him ever managed here, Pat, and been successful? Ooh. Like an oddball? I think Sirianni's a little odd. I think he's odd in the sense of,
I
love his
he's excitable, but he's not odd.
I don't think he's odd.
I think he's odd. Like the mugging for the cameras during the Giants playoff game, like finding the Fox cameras and mugging for the cameras.
I don't think he does that though. I don't think he finds the cameras. I think the cameras find him.
I think he assumes the camera's on him all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of the everyman more than a lot of managers, coaches. Yeah, I just think he's a normal.
He's adjusted
dude.
well.
Yeah,
I mean, he's adjusted well to he has the most pressure-packed job in the city. Honestly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, as far as most scrutinized, most talked about, and Sirianni just does Nick Sirianni, does a spectacular job with that.
No, he really does. Yeah, that's the biggest thing with Kapler. Like, the well was poisoned too early, and people turned on him, and I don't think he was that good of a manager anyway. I still don't, but I don't think he's as bad as everyone was. He's a middle-of-the-road guy who has a middle-of-the-road team who you need to take care of in a 3-game series. It's very doable.
I need you later, Connor, to join us, though, because
I'll be out back.
There's an interesting piece, and I'm going to retweet it for everybody to be able to read before we do it, about how analytics in baseball, how people never have to answer for it, how organizations and teams never answer for it. And I want everybody to have a chance to read it. I'm going to send it on out. We'll have a discussion of it coming up in the next hour. We got Fan Fest on Saturday, and Connor says he wants to give away some tickets. Bobby, you weren't here to give him a number. So he wants to give away some tickets. Saturday, Fan Fest. It's going to be awesome. Make every moment count with FanDuel. It's going to be the presenting sponsor. Where
going to be phenomenal.
What number?
I'm going to give it 8. I'm going to give out 8 pairs of tickets to FanFest today. Yeah.
Wow. With Fallout Boy and Nick Foles?
Yeah. I think Todd is getting a little annoyed with me, our promotions director, in that I probably ordered about 50 or so tickets from him over the last week.
I have not made I've done the same thing, but if Todd can't hate you worse, because I've sent him separate email, because I get email requests and then I'll send separate emails. I should consolidate them into one. So
I give him all the different emails too.
Okay, well then Todd hates us both.
I don't feel bad about like the 4 that I sent Todd then.
Oh, well then there it is.
Should've.
Oh, no.
Compared to you guys, I look great on this show.
Yeah, we've had some requests. Now, Bob Cooney has some concerns as we get to Cooney's Corner.
Now, let's see what's in Cooney's Corner.
There's so many concerns to be had, John.
Uh-oh.
But this one seems pretty reasonable to me. You had some injuries over the weekend. right? Pat laid him out. McPherson got hurt, and you lose a player or two here and there. I didn't get the reaction of anybody like, oh, this is bad. You got guys out with hamstrings and ankles and different things like that. Are we taking this all too casually, this Eagles preseason? Is there, nothing to see here, don't worry about it? Because I really feel like that. I just honestly do. I just feel like, short of a starter getting a season-ending injury, I feel this preseason is just yawn, get to September 10th.
I think that's where the fan base is because, Bob, and it's dumb on my part, but my thought process is they're going to be in Vegas for the Super Bowl. So I am, I guess, setting the bar so high that as long as it's boring, I'm thrilled.
I guess.
But it's a little bit of arrogance saying I really don't see a competitor out there who over the course of 19 games or 18 games that it takes, 19 games that it takes to get to the Super Bowl that is going to be better than the Eagles.
I miss it. There's a running back competition going on here.
But it's
Jeff
all good
McClain
news,
and
right?
all have been trying to write about it. I guess. Have been trying to write about it and all that stuff, and it's just like, yeah, whatever. You don't know who's starting among the four. There's a chance, and I read somewhere that Rashad Penny might get cut, which somebody predicted, by the way. But who's your starting running back? It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's all good. It could be Gainwell. He's getting the most reps in training camp. It might be Swift. I don't know. Who cares? I've never gone through a training camp like this before. And yes, is it good? Yeah, but is it fun? No, it sucks. I barely watched the 2 preseason games.
I think it's, though, Bob, exactly how Nick Sirianni wants it.
Sure it is.
Right?
No news is good news.
This is what he's trying to do. He's trying to create a nothing to see here training camp, and he keeps it that way. And bravo, because 2 years in a row, he took really 1 year where it was a serious doubter, but 2 years in a row, he's taken doubters like me and gone as far as to his approach to training camp and said, hey, take notes, rookie. I'll show you how it's done. He does an amazing job.
I just miss it, though. I miss all the talk.
I don't miss the angst. No. I got to tell you, I don't miss the angst.
But, I like competition. I like to see, this guy's doing really well here. Is he going to supplant this guy as the starter and all that? No. We're really not getting any of it.
Yeah, it's cool.
I don't know.
You know what
I need more.
The way you described it, we're not getting any of there's competition going on. We just aren't getting the updates on it, I guess. But the way you described it I'm not watching the games and, I'm not really invested in this and that. You literally described every other sports training camp. The NHL, we don't care until the games get played.
Yeah, that's a great point, Pat.
NBA, same thing. I could not care less about NBA training camp.
You are smart.
And Major League Baseball, look, we like spring training. Why? Because it's in Clearwater.
Yes.
And because it's miserable here.
Yeah,
but if you're not going down to Clearwater, you don't give a rat's ass about spring training. The whole pitchers and catchers joke gets real old real quick after the Eagles lose their last game of the season. So you literally described every single sports preseason. And that to me, it's a good thing. Because as John laid out, the drama and the angst of...
I don't miss it at all.
I hate it.
I hate it too.
But I'm different.
But Bob takes it differently, I think, because...
I think Bob speaks for the people, honestly. I think more people are like Bob than me.
I think more people are like Bob. Yeah, I think it is.
It's just strange to me. It's just, because running back has always been my key position. That's the one I always loved. That was as a kid. I loved watching, running backs. You have a competition among at least 3, maybe 4. Well, probably at least 3. Boston Scott, I think, is going to be a backup. And there's nobody's talking about it. Is it going to be Swift? Is it going to be Gainwell? Is it going to be Penny? I don't know. It's going to be one of them. What difference does it make? And it's craziness. But I understand it too. But I do miss it. I do miss wanting to watch a preseason game because I don't know something. They've made it so we kind of know everything. We're just hoping that something doesn't get off kilter. And it's weird.
I got to tell you, I feel like it's a little bit of arrogance, Pat, that I'm like, just be healthy because I don't think anybody can beat them over 19 games.
I don't think it's necessarily arrogance. That's what we should expect from a team that went to the Super Bowl and was winning by 10 at one point.
How come we don't have that about the Phillies?
Because we know that the Phillies was a miracle, magical.
I call it a unicorn. Right.
Yeah, I mean, when
but people are expecting it again.
It
seems
when you back into the playoffs the way they did, when you're a wild card team, all of that, it's a miracle run. When you are dummying teams the way the Eagles were last year, number 1 seed, bowled their way through the playoffs. I mean, non-competitive games in the playoffs. Expecting them to do that again should be the bar. Like, that should be where everyone's expectation level is. If the Eagles were a 9-8 team, like let's say that the first year of Nick Sirianni,
exactly,
if they were 9-8, they barely get in the playoffs and they go on a run like the 2008 Eagles, when they barely got in and they went on that run and they lost the NFC Championship game. That's an outlier, miracle-ish run that the next year you're probably not expecting. But the way the Eagles played last season, yeah, I'm expecting them to be playing in Las Vegas as well.
Yeah, I don't miss any of that angst, Bobby. I can't. I hated training camp. Like, I even hated when they were like, there's a group like the running back competition. They're not worried about. They're thinking it's a good problem to have.
Yeah,
not a bad problem.
And it is.
Like, that to me is great news. That makes me smile when I'm hearing the linebacker stuff. I'm already anxious about it, and they don't seem anxious about it at all. They don't seem concerned about it at all.
The defensive side of the ball is going to be very interesting.
Well, consider our angst or the talking point last year, a year from now. It was, is Jalen Hurts the guy? A lot of people, myself included, did not think he was going to be the guy. So you were,
and I was on a fence.
Your angst level was, I'm going into an NFL season where I don't think the quarterback is the guy, and we're going to just kind of waste time and plan for draft picks, all that crap. That sucks. So compared to where I was mentally last year as to this year, I'll take a boring, quiet training camp where there's nothing to talk about over last year any day. I mean, and I was thrilled to be wrong, but last year I didn't enjoy training camp. But then the regular season happened. It was cool.
I would, I look back to last year. By the way, I have stuff on this for later in the week. Stuff that we talked about on the show last year, same week. And it's amazing how everything's changed. Everything has changed. Our mentality as a fan base and energy, it's completely different. And that's a great thing. That part of it's a great thing. So, Pat's got some thoughts on Daryl Morey that we all want to discuss.
Nah.
Yeah, you do. You do, though.
Yeah, let's just go to break.
No, we are doing that.
We're not going to.
No, I'm saying that's the tease, Pat.
It's called a tease.
Pat, that was
radio,
the tease.
Pat.
We're not doing
that.
I was going to break.
Nah, let's just go to Cuz Radio.
No, we're not doing that. John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. Hey, join me right now on the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. It's at
Philadelphia.
Monday morning, John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. You know, at Staples, school savings are always in session. From art supplies and essentials to the latest tech, in stock and price low. School on, save on at your local Staples store. I used to like the new school supplies, though. Used to like getting new notebooks.
No.
Like the new, I liked the marble bound notebook, not the spiral.
Hated all of them.
Didn't dig the spiral. Well, nothing you can do when you got to go back. These kids, though, having to go back in August. This sucks.
Going for school supplies was the absolute worst.
You hated it? Didn't Mom just do it for
Probably like walking on death row. It's like,
your mom brought you?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I just my mom would just come home with like.
I was living with her and she wasn't going to leave me alone.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, when I was younger, but it sucked. It's like, oh, great. So my summer's done. You kind of start doing the reflecting over what you did and all the missed opportunities you had. And
you weren't a latchkey kid ever?
No, I mean, I went to camp.
No, but I mean, like, you never, like, when you came home from school, was somebody there?
My grandmother watched me.
Wow, you had a good, I mean.
Yeah, she was the best.
I was a latchkey kid from first grade.
Yeah, she was awesome.
Now, Doc was a seventh grader, I guess. He was probably seventh. So he would eventually come home, too, from whatever he was doing. But I think it's a different world today. I think parents, you know, as far as to just let, but I mean, I think that we would never have let a first grader come home and just get a snack for themselves and just do it. But in that day and age, they had no problem with it. It was absolutely a different world.
It was.
The rules were different.
Yeah, I mean, you would come home and crack a beer in second grade.
Well, Dad had Ortlieb's downstairs.
Kick back.
I do remember walking to school by myself on the first day of kindergarten.
Yeah, walked. We didn't get walked to school by our parents. Like I had to walk to kindergarten also. It was right up the street. It wasn't like I was there, but I had to cross Westchester Pike.
Yeah.
I mean, it was stuff that we would never do as parents. We would do that are completely different. Now the question is, what will Daryl Morey do differently? And is there a plan? Pat thinks he's sort of Team Morey.
This is Pat's point of view. Here's Pat.
Let's just get a break.
No, we can't.
I am not Team Morey.
Why? Wait a minute.
I'm picking Daryl Morey over James Harden to kick rocks.
So that's a difference.
Now, in terms of siding with one guy or the other or putting blame, at this point, as a Sixers fan, I don't even care. I don't even care who's to blame. I just want the situation fixed. And my issue is if the Sixers are picking Daryl Morey at this point, I don't know why.
Wow.
If it's literally Daryl Morey versus James Harden, one has to go. Daryl Morey should be the one to go. Because Daryl Morey at this point, okay, let me ask you, what else can he do? What can Daryl Morey do right now to improve this roster? He's used up all the cap space. He's used up all the trade assets. What is he going to do to improve this roster? Because any trade for James Harden, the roster's getting worse. The only reason you're trading James Harden is because he wants out because of Daryl Morey. So at this point, I feel like Daryl Morey has done everything he can to get this roster to championship level. And that includes, by the way, trading for James Harden. So if the only thing keeping James Harden from being a happy member of society is Daryl Morey, with the lack of assets that they have moving forward, it's only getting worse. Yeah, next year they have cap space. Great. They've never attracted top-level talent to this city. If you want to look at the top-level talent they've attracted, they've had to overpay for it. Or it's been Elton Brand, who was on like one knee. The last time they attracted a top-level free agent was when? They don't. They strike out year after year. And the NBA is the one sport where, for whatever reason, superstars don't want to come here. So giving me that they have all this cap space.
I think you know the answer, don't you?
What do you mean? Of why they don't want to come here?
When superstars decide to team up and create the Super Friends.
Yeah.
Why do they do that? They think they can win a title with the guy who's there.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I think the NBA
it's got
is
a
such
major
weird
thing to do with
I think the NBA is so weird in the sense of players want to go where their brand will be better, where the lifestyle is better. Like you think about top-level free agents in the NBA and why they sign. Most of the time it's, geez, that team overpaid.
Lifestyle.
And even Milwaukee has trouble attracting top-level free agents They have to trade for most of their guys or draft and develop. Denver did the same thing, draft and develop. And Golden State for a while had to do the same thing, draft and develop. And then they became a powerhouse that was attracting top-level guys because you wanted to play with Steph. But the Bay Area wasn't the worst place to be. So for whatever reason, the NBA has told you what to think of the Sixers. They're not interested. So saying, oh, well, they have all this cap space coming with the books, great. I don't want to overpay for a guy that I'm regretting the contract in 6 months, which would probably happen. So at this point, if keeping the window open means keeping James Harden, and keeping James Harden means Daryl Morey leaves, then I'm going to let Daryl Morey, I'm going to show him the door. Because if this team fails to do anything in the playoffs, then there's a chance that Daryl Morey leaves anyway after a year. And then you're out Daryl Morey and you're out James Harden.
Well, I'm throwing up in my mouth.
I'm
catering to James Harden.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't, at this point, I don't care who I'm catering to. I want to keep the window open to possibly win a championship. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. You're like the too prideful nature of, oh, well, we're going to cater and I don't want to do that and all that. You're hurting the organization.
Yeah, what do you have? I mean, seriously,
what's he going to do?
Who gives you a better chance to win in the playoffs, James Harden or Daryl Morey?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely correct on that. I mean, you're comparing an executive to a player, but I've seen a guy who is crapped out in every big opportunity he's ever had in the playoffs, and I've seen in 6th and 7th games.
And I've seen an executive who has used up every single asset he has and will likely end up leaving anyway because he's not interested in a rebuild, and he did that in Houston. He used up every asset, all the cap space, tried to bring in guys, and then when it became an unobtainable situation, he booked it. He said, all right, I'll leave. Because he's not a GM at this point who's in for a rebuild. He's in for a win-now situation to win a championship. Well, if they end up getting bounced in the second round next year, do you think Daryl Morey's sticking around?
Probably not.
So then what's so that you're out both of them?
But I'm more fascinated by the idea that you don't believe that, like you think the whole thing about Philly not being able to attract big-name free agents in the NBA
I don't think it has
doesn't have anything to do with Joel Embiid.
No, I think Embiid,
wow.
He's a unicorn that is players that play with him love him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a situation of I can't win with that guy. I mean, can I win with him when he's not healthy? His health situation is a big thing, but I don't think necessarily there's a stigma around Joel Embiid. You can't win with him.
Like, I don't think there's a dislike, but I don't think there's NBA players are looking around going, man, if I could just team up with Embiid.
I think more would want to play with him than not. I mean, he is the MVP of the league. He is one of the best players in the league. I think more people than not would want to play with him.
James Harden, by the way, at one point wanted to play with him.
Yeah.
Which I think he still does.
And he does. Yeah, I do too. I wonder if, outsider looking in, people look at the Sixers organization
as a little,
all that has gone on over the last 5-6 years and say, wait, is that the place that had 2 number 1 overall picks and they're gone? Is that the place where it just seems people go and then all of a sudden don't want to play? Like, those are the questions I think that arise among players more so than playing with Embiid.
It's
the process.
I don't think it's the process at this point.
They get laughed at in there are media members who still smirk at that. They can't wait for this all to be done.
And the guys that we're talking about that'll be free agents when the process was kicked off, they were in high school. So I don't think they care. Media members can scoff all they want.
No, but I mean, it might be in the perception of the organization may be affected.
No, I think
they lost on purpose.
Necessarily, I don't think that hurts it. I really don't. I think the perception of the organization being once again under investigation by the NBA. I think the dysfunction that Bob talks about weighs way more than, hey, 10 years ago they tried to lose on purpose because the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing it and they're praised for it. I mean, Sam Presti is looked at as a god because he's acquired 1,000 number 1 draft picks that'll probably
finish
be from
like a
20
game out of the playoffs.
They did, and the Sixers would have been the same situation if they didn't draft injured players. There's a different mindset. I mean, Sam Presti went out and drafted guys that were healthy, and the Sixers drafted Nerlens Noel out for a year. Ben Simmons, who was supposed to be healthy but sat himself out for a year. Joel Embiid out for 2 years. If you have all 3 of those guys healthy in their rookie years, then the process would have been sped up, but it wasn't. But Sam Presti didn't draft injured guys. Chet Holmgren ended up getting injured, so you can consider him a Ben Simmons type guy. But for the rest of the high draft picks that they took, they were healthy. So it sped up their process.
You make a good point, Patrick.
And the defense rests.
So we know all the money that's coming off the books. The question here is like a topper on your subject, Pat. Do you trust Daryl Morey with a bunch of money to be able to right this ship after Tobias Harris and James Harden are gone?
No, and one of the reasons why is because I wonder how much this whole James Harden situation has sullied Daryl Morey's reputation in the NBA. Because you've got PJ Tucker siding with James Harden. I understand that one because PJ Tucker got paid because of James Harden.
Correct.
But when Joel Embiid starts popping off a little bit the way he has, and by popping off, I mean he changes his Twitter location. Like that wasn't by accident. He's saying, well, if I win in Philadelphia, we're somewhere else. So it seems like the players are more likely to side with James Harden on the situation.
Players always side with players.
Sometimes.
I've never seen
players weren't siding with Ben Simmons.
I've never seen a player in a contract dispute where the players come out. The only one I ever saw was Donovan McNabb maybe not speaking correctly, using the correct terms. I've never seen players in a locker room go up against a guy looking for his money.
Well, is this
publicly.
A guy looking for his money, or is this a guy who felt like he's been slighted by a GM? I think it's probably a little bit of both, but I think at this point the pride is getting in the way of anything else. I mean, at this point, I don't even think it's about the money. And I think James Harden would say that. He didn't say, I won't play with the Sixers unless I get X, Y, and Z. It was, I'm not going to play in any organization that Daryl Morey is a part of. So, and then at the optics of it right now are the players deciding with James Harden on that. So, and you've got Joel Embiid, by the way, who likes Daryl Morey, but is probably keeping him at an arm's length because the last GM that he had, or the last president of basketball ops, or whatever they call it, that guy told him to his face, I'm not on a burner account trashing your name. And it turned out he was on a burner account trashing his name. So he's already kind of been burned by a GM at one point, a front office type. So he probably doesn't even, he probably likes Daryl Morey. He doesn't trust him. So I wonder how much Daryl Morey's name has been sullied in NBA circles where, he calls up your agent, wants to bring you here, and it gets like, I'm okay. I don't want to play with that guy.
I mean, I get you. I do. I throw up dealing with, I don't want anything that caters in any way. I would not cater to James Harden.
Then you're going to lose.
Yeah,
you're in for a really,
with James Harden, his history tells me I'm going to lose.
But you have no shot and are in for a really rough watch.
Or maybe you give Nick Nurse a clean slate to start with.
It's probably going to be one without Joel Embiid then.
Nick Nurse doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think Nick Nurse wants.
I mean, there's a chance that a year from now we're talking about Sixers getting ready for training camp without Joel Embiid, Daryl Morey, James Harden, Tobias Harris.
There absolutely is a chance of that.
And you're looking at, can Maxey be the guy? 6'1",
No.
That you want to talk about throwing up in my mouth? That is throwing up in my mouth because at that point
I don't want to talk about
you became the 6-7 seed that you wanted to avoid.
Hey, Tasty Cake Dom's on the line. Dom, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, John. I just wanted to quickly get involved in this because you and Bob will know this. This is a franchise that never gets it right. John, in the 90s, those great Bulls teams, it was supposed to be Brad Daugherty and Charles Barkley next to each other for 10 years. All they had to do was say Brad Daugherty. It was a gimme. It was a layup. And they trade him for Roy. They get Roy Henson.
Yep. I mean, they've definitely had many missteps to go 40 years. It's 40 years without a championship.
Yeah.
And everybody mocks the Flyers. The Flyers have had a ton more success in the 40 years since the Sixers have won.
So when you guys talk about trading Embiid, I'm tired because, we won't get nothing for that either.
I mean, that's the problem is that I don't want to see Joel Embiid go, but he's the one who's already starting this whisper campaign. It's not us. He's starting it with his, I'll win a championship there or somewhere else.
And if that time comes, we're going to have a lot of discussions of, do you blame him?
I can tell you right now, I don't think I'd blame him.
No, I won't.
I don't think I'd blame him.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I would.
It's going to be interesting.
He gave him opportunity, Bob, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how it goes down, what goes down, exactly. But, yeah, I look, if you don't have James Harden here this year, and I don't know what you're going to do to field what kind of a team or whatever, I would find it hard to believe that Embiid's going to be up for a rebuild.
No, I wouldn't. If I'm him, I wouldn't want to be up for a rebuild.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't be. I would also, though, make sure that on the way out that I understood that the wording that I used, the way I talked about it, I would be very, very careful because he has also in many ways not delivered in what he was expected to deliver.
Yeah, somebody made a good point talking about the Celtics series. As much as, you talk about Harden not being there in Game 5 and 6 and all, Harden won you 2 games. How many did Embiid win you, they said?
None.
None. It's kind of weird. No, he was very good in some of those games, but can he carry you 2 wins? It's still the question that kind of surrounds him. And
but do you think
you just don't know?
You don't think players in the NBA are asking that question?
Wait, say that again?
Do you think I find it incredibly hard to believe the players in the NBA aren't asking that same question. Is he a guy?
Well, I don't think
is he going to be? Is he going to be out? Like, if I go to Philly, all I care about is winning a championship. I'm trying to win a championship. Is he going to be healthy? The guy, I'd love to play with Embiid, but he's never healthy.
Oh, is he going to be healthy?
That's what I mean.
That's
so they're saying, hey, if I come to Philly, everybody's saying, hey, come to Philly with Embiid and win a championship, but he's never healthy. Or when he gets there, there's always an excuse. There's always a reason, an excuse or a reason of why it doesn't happen. And sometimes it seems like an excuse. Sometimes there is a distinct reason. But right now it's tough.
It's funny. His is the type of game that I think we undervalue a lot of times. You know, he can go for 30 and 15 and 4 blocks or whatever, and it's not the the overpowering thing that leads you to a win. But without it, obviously, you're screwed. I mean, without Joel Embiid, this team isn't what they've been over the last 6-7 years. Not getting past the second round obviously leads to the scrutiny that we do have upon him. Can he lead a team to that area? The answer right now has to be no.
The answer is no. I mean, based on his own resume. But I think there's reasons and then there's excuses. And to me, there are some reasons where, like, I think the Hawks series was one that was Ben Simmons gets the blame for it. Joel Embiid also didn't play well when they had a chance to close out that series. 13 turnovers in Game 6 and Game 7. That's ridiculous. That's reckless with the ball. But that gets overshadowed because Ben Simmons is the villain. And it's one of those things where he in game, I still can't, I'll never forget Game 6 as long as I live. I will never forget those last, because I thought, here I am, here it comes. This team's closing it out, and they're going to do it. They've got the lead, 5 minutes to go. I never thought they'd turtle like that. I just didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of question marks coming in here. So
we're having fun.
Yeah, it's not fun.
No, we're having a lot of fun.
I don't want to see him leave, though. I don't want to see Embiid leave, but if he left next year, I absolutely would not wish him poorly. It wouldn't be one of those things where a guy leaves town and then I'm rooting against him.
No,
I would thank him for his time and say, good luck, dude. Like,
yeah, it's going to be interesting how it all plays out.
It's going to be hard.
This will be an interesting. This season will be like the Sixers are reaching a tempest at this point where, like, they're going to have to figure out whether they're truly in a rebuilding situation or they're becoming and they're becoming the Flyers, where it's like they convince themselves they're not rebuilding when everybody knows they are.
Could they move? Okay, is there any chance by the season opener, Bob, that Harden and I'm trying to think of, like, who? Okay, is they can't if
Tobias Harris?
If they move Harden, you can't move Tobias, right? Because if you move Harden, as Pat's already pointed out, you're probably not getting a return that's going to wow you. But then, and Tobias is going to be a situation where you're getting rid of him. I don't know what you're getting with him either.
It looks like they're just going to hold on to Tobias and let this year play out, and then he'd take him off the books after next year.
And take the spot.
Because we haven't really heard anything about him.
No.
So that's what it appears to be. So,
oh boy.
Okay. I don't know. It's crazy that we're at this spot. I expect to be in this spot a month after you lose in the playoffs, a couple weeks after you lose in the playoffs, looking to the future and not having answers. They're a month from training camp, and we have all these questions. It's kind of a little over a month. It's kind of odd.
Thanks for that ray of sunshine, Pat.
Sorry,
we appreciate it. But it's the truth. I'd love to say, Pat, you're overreacting. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, Pat, you're looking at it glass half empty. No, you're not. You're looking at it very realistically. And Sixers got to get it figured out. I'm so excited to see Nick Nurse and his approach, though. I just wonder what, as you say, Bob, what ingredients he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to dissect an approach when you don't have the players to carry it out. And right now, I don't know if he does.
By the way, on the Eagles' moves over the weekend, they signed a bunch of guys over the weekend. And the message from the great Zach Bermans and the Jeff McClains of the world seems to be that the guys they brought in to play the last preseason game. So it's almost like guys looking to get some tape on themselves. They want to get some tape. And
free jersey, free meal.
Exactly, and that the Eagles are literally putting all the toys on the shelf. That there's not going to be anybody of real consequence who should be playing on Thursday night versus the Colts. Now you have I guess the last decisions will be made in these joint practices. And Shane Steichen coming in, that's an interesting story. I mean, he's the coordinator that everybody is sort of sad left.
I'm kind of curious now, rookie quarterback aside, which kind of sucks. But
who I'm not on board with, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of stuff about him.
I'm curious to see how the defense performs against a guy who knows the personnel. You know, I'm curious to see how this plays out. I don't want it to come out, the defense hasn't looked good these 2 days against the Colts, who are a mediocre team. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what comes out of these joint practices. But even then, I don't know. It's just not doing anything for me right now, and it's pissing me off.
They're projected to be a top 10 pick. Some people have them as a top 5 pick next year. So the Colts are supposed to be, it's a rebuilding year and an opportunity for them to look at young players and to build something. Shane Steichen knows he's got time to build something there. He's just getting started. So they're willing to commit to the rebuild, I guess. They tried the Band-Aids at quarterback, and it just didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't work for them. Whether it was Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan, it just didn't get
anyone else?
Is that Carson guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
What
him?
was that, Pat?
Yeah.
What was that?
He's still available.
No.
I don't know.
Nope.
You know, Marcus Mariota looks terrible.
6'1".
Well, yeah.
Everybody.
He's atrocious. And I would think that I would absolutely trust one thing. Carson Wentz is a better passer than Marcus Mariota. But I don't want him here. Can't have that. And the whole Nick Foles stuff. Seriously. People were trying to steal Nick Foles away from FanFest this weekend. Pat, I mean, honestly.
You know, it's August Sports Radio.
I mean, that's really what it was.
That's what it, like I saw.
You want Nick Foles back? I'm like, seriously, dudes? Like, really?
I saw a video of some ESPN talking heads yesterday saying it was disrespectful to Justin Fields to compare him to Jalen Hurts, and I was like, yeah, all right, that makes sense because the season Jalen Hurts had. But it was anti-Jalen Hurts and pro-Justin Fields, and how Justin Fields has all these amazing attributes, and it's not even a fair comparison. And I tweeted, I quote tweeted the video and just said, like, we're at the point. We're at the point of August where there's literally nothing to talk about. We drained blood from a stone, and we're trying to, just throw crap at a wall. And for the ESPN talking heads that have Talk NFL, that's what they went with that day.
Who was talking about that?
It was. I think it was a former athlete. I don't remember who it was. But my point is, like, they're thrown in front of a camera and said, talk about the NFL. And at that point, they're like, all right, we're just going to throw crap against the wall.
All right, tell me you have.
What they get.
That would be one of those quotes where I'd say, tell me you've watched Justin Fields throw into tight windows, or that you haven't, because you haven't. Jalen Hurts last year had so many beautiful passes into tight windows. And if you've watched anything of Justin Fields, and I watched him from high school, he is not a tight window thrower yet with any kind of success. That's really pushing it. I can't believe Jalen Hurts is getting crap the week before the season. Hey, I don't think he cares, Pat. That's the good part.
Well, no,
but still, though, that's just ridiculous.
The whole talking point will be forgotten once the season starts, and the guy can just act like he never said it.
9 o'clock hour is brought to you by the Bagster. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. And for details, go to Bagster.com. I cannot wait for Connor and Pat and Bob to get in on this conversation. I've tweeted out the column so you can read it about how analytics in baseball go unquestioned. And it might give you some insights as to how Rob Thompson manages a game. You got to check it out. It's on my Twitter feed, but we'll talk about it next. John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, do this. Imagine if your favorite casino came with an undo button. Well, you get that with FanDuel Casinos. Play it again. Get up to $1,000 back if you're down after your
At 975thefanatic.com, the Fanatic app, and now on Odyssey. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic. Connor's bouncing. He's very excited.
I like the real Slim
series.
Shady.
You like the You like the Philly series, though.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
Bobby's bouncing. You have him too wired up. You're running the puppy around too much.
No, we took it easy this break.
Yeah, we're just sitting back there.
Yeah, we were just talking.
Took it easy this one.
Yeah, we weren't playing.
Didn't want to pull a hamstring.
Didn't want to get anybody injured before the big series.
No, can't do that.
Hey, they might need me. You never know. Arm still feels good.
I sent out a piece from a good site. If you're a baseball fan and you haven't checked out ball9.com, it's an interesting read. They did. Kevin Kernan did a piece about a question comparing baseball to other professional sports, and it's going to give you great insight, I believe, into how Rob Thompson does his job, because Kevin speaks about how the Yankees organization for years has used analytics. Where did Rob Thompson learn how to manage? With Joe Girardi, and being reliant on these analytics. And it tells you why. An interesting point is that why do we not know who the analytics people are in the organization? Because the analytics people are very much involved in day-to-day. Here's who should be batting where. Here's why this guy should play against this pitcher. Here's why this guy needs a day off. The Phillies organization has one of the largest analytics crews, as Ricky will tell you, in Major League Baseball. Can we name one name of any of them? And in any other sport, not only is the head coach held responsible, Nick Sirianni, but his assistants, his two biggest assistants, have to meet with the media every single week. Required. They got to do their little give and take with the media, and then that's it. We don't know anything about the people that are really doing the Wizard of Oz routine, where they're pulling the strings behind the scenes, and Rob Thompson is left to explain them. And Bob, it's like any other sport, and you've covered them all. This is baseball spending tens of millions of dollars on this, and we don't know who the people are.
Yeah, they're providing a service. They're giving information. That's what analytics is. It's how the coach, manager, whatever, chooses to use it is what comes into question. They're not doing anything wrong by providing information.
No.
Yeah,
but,
so, what am I going to question them on? Why did you give them that stat that, I don't know, Jalen Hurts is better at throwing the ball going 3 steps to his left than he is 5 steps to his left? Why
did you teach Reese Hoskins a terrible launch angle thing?
That was the coaches.
Yeah, but based on analytics.
The coaches don't have to take the information that they're giving them and use it. They don't.
They do.
Well, that's on them. That's why they're the ones answering the questions. I'd rather have a coach that has all the information in the world and so choose how to use it. And if I choose to use it in some way that isn't productive to a player, I stop using it. But their job is to give them information. Their job isn't to implement the information to players. But they give it to the coaches, the managers, whatever, and then it's up to, that's why they are the coaches and the managers.
But obviously, when you have one of the largest staffs in the country in Major League Baseball, you are using it. You wouldn't have these people around if the baseball people were rejecting it. They wouldn't be expanding their analytics department. If they kept every day going, Rob, this is what you should be doing. Rob, this is how you should do things. And they were rejecting that information. They wouldn't be expanding their analytics.
I saw that happen. I saw an analytics group grow and grow and grow under a coach that was not real fond of using analytics. Great. Good information. Love to hear it. Super. That's fine.
In any other sport,
piece of paper over there.
The people explain the strategy. In baseball, they don't, Connor. I mean, they're not explaining why they do that. And by the way, a lot of things that Rob Thompson's done as a manager are very odd and very different. And he can't explain them. And that makes me wonder how much of it is, this is what, and you read it, they're from the days of like the Yankees organization, how they do it.
Yeah.
There's things that are imposed, and then there's things that are given leeway for the manager.
It's not that he can't explain them. It's that he doesn't.
Difference. That
like
is
a big difference. He knows what he's doing. Like, he's well in control of what he's choosing to do. I just don't know if the reason he's not bringing it up is because of his personality type. I don't know if it's because they have something they don't want people to know. I don't know if it's because he doesn't feel the need to explain it. Just like, let's think about this, right? You ask Rob Thompson why he pulled this guy in the 6th inning. And he comes out and he says, well, the numbers say that in his career, this was a bad spot for him. And you're going to say, well, okay, in this situation, didn't that seem wrong? He's like, well, the numbers say this. It's like, it's hard to go back and forth with numbers, which is why this makes it so complicated. And it's why Bob's kind of right, where you have to just trust the coach to know what numbers matter when. And that ultimately falls on the baseball people and not the analytics people.
Where do you fall on this, Pat, as far as the, like, I mean, are you a big analytics guy with baseball or not? You're not.
I'm not smart enough to understand it.
Or to not do it.
I think there's a place for it. I think being a slave to analytics is dumb. I've seen way too many times where analytics says player A is so much better than player B. And player A is out of the league within 3 years, and player B is still chugging along, continuing to hit, 30 home runs and 100 RBIs or whatever. I mean, analytically speaking, Matt Stairs was incredible. And that guy was somebody that if you gave him enough at-bats, like, he was the poster boy for the analytical community.
We have one now who's playing left field.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like Matt Stairs was bad, but he was a bench bat. He was a very, very good bench bat, and I think there's a place for him. I think you can take the information, sure, but what Connor says is correct. Like, it's tough if you ask a guy, why did you take this guy out? And you're probably only asking if it backfired. You're not asking, why did you take the guy out if the reliever comes in and gets to the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so you're going to harp on, well, what happened here? You took the guy out. And he's probably going to tell you, well, numbers-wise and stuff. And, I mean...
Why do you use harp on?
I don't know. I just always...
No, but I mean, is that like... Because that takes... I think like Bob was using the words, that's like a negative connotation. If a manager makes a bad move, I don't think you're harping on it, asking him to explain, why'd you make the bad move? Explain yourself.
Well, it was a bad move but was it a bad move in the moment? Because sometimes you'll have...
There are differences.
A situation where you guys... takes a pitcher out, and you agree with taking the pitcher out, but you might not agree with who he brought in, and that is a situation of maybe analytics backfiring. Analytically speaking, and the numbers dictate that this guy was so much better against this part of the lineup, it didn't work, and it backfired, and blah blah blah. And you're like, well, dude, that guy is a 5.5 ERA. Like, what are you doing? That is frustrating. I being a slave to it's dumb, and
I think they're a slave to it. And this organization,
I don't think they're a slave to it.
Here's the funny part about everything: the difference in last night's game could have been that Zach Wheeler was tipping his pitches.
Very well, might have been. Absolutely.
There's a baseball game right there. Like, that's going from analytics overdrive to no analytics at all. That's just baseball. I picked up on something.
I didn't have it
and
tonight.
I beat you with it. Yeah, that's all. Now, look, there's not a coach, manager, whatever, that is going to say to you, oh, you have a lot of information on this team I'm about to play? No, I don't want it. That's never going to happen. Like, all the information you can get is great, and coaches will dive into it. Whether they use it or not, that's the other question. And analytics is just an overabundance of information.
Right. Okay,
and how you choose to use it as a coach, that has to ultimately fall on you.
I do not believe a baseball man is making the decision to say Schwarber bats leadoff, Schwarber this is day.
Why?
I believe that is because I don't believe
that's anti-analytic to have Schwarber batting leadoff.
No, I think it's exactly what he's being told to do. They get him more at bats. He's going to hit home runs. He's your best home run hitter.
Why do you think he should not be batting leadoff?
Because of the fact that he's not a guy that is, first of all, he clogs up the bases, which is the number one thing I don't want my leadoff hitter to do.
Slow, you can chart that.
That's number one thing that I don't want my guy to do.
Bad batting average.
Terrible.
That's a number.
But his on-base percentage was best on the team the other day.
Yes, so there's things that go for it and against it. But Kyle Schwarber is not your prototypical leadoff hitter by the numbers either. And that, to me, says that it's a baseball decision. Like, I don't think he's the poster child for analytics. I think the season Kyle Schwarber's having right now is one of the most confounding analytical seasons that we've seen in a long time. And why they're choosing to bat him leadoff, I don't know if it's numbers, but it could very easily just be, I don't know. It feels right when he's at the top of the lineup and they win. I don't know.
I mean, then that's a terrible strategy.
Well, we've talked about. It
just feels right is a horrible. Well, if my boss, if I'm the owner of the team, and I say, okay, why are we doing this? It just doesn't make any sense. Baseball people question it all the time, like, why is he batting leadoff? Can you just explain it to me? Well, it just feels right. That would not be an answer I would accept.
How about if the answer says we're playing 627 baseball since he's let off?
Well, I'd say that now you're playing. Now that's cooled off because you're playing. You've been 500 for 6 weeks. What's going on?
Well, that's
now?
A bigger sample size that I just gave you, 627.
I got you, but then they're throwing out when they were crappy with the same thing going on. You're throwing out, that's fishing because you're picking out when they were crappy when he was batting leadoff.
Or it's consistency when, like, consistency over a larger sample size and you don't want to change things for fear of, like, you have more numbers to the positive than to the negative.
I don't think much that happened in April is reflecting on this team in August. Like the team that they are in August isn't the team they are in April.
It's not different players, John.
I understand, but it's not the same team.
I know. They're not in the playoffs. They've got another month and a half. They could be a different team in October. Like, Rob Thompson is not going to be a guy who makes changes for the sake of making changes. He's a very consistent, like, put this together. He's stubborn almost to a fault, but
which I admire that part of it. I admire the part of he is stubborn. But obviously, he believes in his stubborn. So
which leads you to believe that he is the one coming up with the decision to start Schwarber put Schwarber at leadoff.
There is no way that you're having. I can absolutely not buy in that you've got one of the largest analytics departments in baseball, and you're telling them, "Yeah, we like your information. Just keep churning it out." But Rob's just going to go by what he feels.
Well, that's one little piece of it. Yeah. It's one player at the top of a lineup. The amount of stats you have on everybody.
There's other things he does, too. He rests 20-year-olds who don't need rest. He says, he needs a day off. He needs a day off.
Because
he doesn't bat his best batter against left-handed batters. He doesn't bat him. He decides, give this guy a night off. He does things that make no sense. So either a baseball man's making really weird decisions.
Yeah.
Or somebody else is making them for him, or he's
making these decisions. There's someone telling Rob Thompson what lineup to set or anything. I fully do not believe that that's the case. But it's just, here's the issue with analytics where it's become a double-edged sword. Before, people always use numbers. Go 100 years ago. Why'd you bat that guy? He bats 400. The other guy coming up bats 200. The numbers say that. The guy who bats 400 might strike out, and the guy who bats 200 might go yard. But the issue is now the manager who had to decide between a guy's slash line now has to decide between 1,000 new statistics that they're not used to that some guy in an office is coming up with. And it's not the analytics people's fault. They're doing what they're paid to do.
Yeah,
the issue is the job of managing a baseball team, I think, has gotten significantly tougher with the more stats you have to consider.
So you think it's harder to manage today?
I do.
The more information you have, the harder it is?
The more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
That's not bad. I mean, it's not a bad thought. The idea is I think it's easier to manage today because, first of all, you've gone to a universal DH, which absolutely makes a game easier to manage.
Yeah. Sorry.
You had so much more to manage. But I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying as far as too much information can sometimes clog your brain.
Yeah. I'm talking strictly in the realm of analytics. It's tougher to deal with numbers today when it comes to baseball than it was before. You could say it's tougher to manage because of personalities or social media and how you have to interact with people. There's a whole bunch of things. I'm not saying overall harder to manage today than before. I'm just saying because of analytics, you have more information, but it also makes the job tougher in that aspect.
Well, more cooks spoiling the broth, Bob. I mean, when the more people, I would imagine, you're talking about that Sixers coach that you're talking about. I would imagine that sometimes you don't want to go to that extra meeting.
Well, that was
what I mean?
Yeah, well, it was a personal decision, right? And that's, I would hope, if I'm hired as a head coach, that my say is the last say. That's why I'm the head coach. And, I told you guys the story before about an analytic guy coming up and telling me something about Thaddeus Young that took him 45 seconds to explain an offensive thing. And in the middle of him talking, I went, "Bang!" He's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "That was the shot clock." You don't have that much time to think when you're on a basketball court, all these things you're laying out. That being said, it's information you put in the back of your mind. If I'm calling a play for left-handed Thaddeus Young, but I've learned that he's better at going to his right shoulder, then I'm going to design the play that way. So, yeah, information's always a great thing to have. You were told by Anthopoulos that he doesn't believe that Rob Thompson is told what to do.
He does not. No,
but you don't agree with him.
He doesn't believe that Dave Dombrowski is a heavy-handed GM.
Right.
Like he doesn't see him as he sees him as more of the let guys that his history has been let the manager do their thing.
Yeah.
As far as that's the respect
that
he
he's
has.
not making
He's
the call.
Right. He's not making it.
You don't believe him?
No,
though.
I'm not with some of the stuff that goes on with this team.
Here's the thing, though, right?
I'm just questioning whether what's going on because I don't get an explanation for it.
Here's if I could break it down, kind of what I think is happening. It's not too many cooks. It's too many ingredients, right?
Too many cooks.
So Rob Thompson went from cooking in a kitchen to now with all the statistics, you got to go through an entire supermarket to find what matters. And you can still make it work, but it's just there's so much to pick from. It almost causes problems at points. And I don't know if he's struggling with balancing the analytics, and that's why he kind of does weird stuff. I don't know. And it could be as simple as he would have done this stuff 100 years ago and these numbers don't exist, and it just seems weird.
But also, if you're Rob Thompson, would you stop doing what you're doing?
No, it's
You took a team to the World Series last year that wasn't expect to at all. You're going to get the top wild card spot probably this year. While it's underachieving in many of our eyes, if I'm Rob Thompson and I'm doing this, I'm thinking I'm doing a pretty damn good job. So I don't know if I would change if I was him.
Yeah,
we might see even more of it in the playoffs.
I think it's confounding the way they go about their business. Like I think it's not like I think and I would think if a Phillies fan is pleased with the results of this season, I don't know what they're looking at.
No, I think this year has been an underachieving one so far.
And we're going to see in October whether it pays off. And I would expect you win a series, that'll be exciting. And then you see if you can do the unicorn thing that you did last year.
Yeah, but I also think the World Series run last year kind of pushed the Phillies into Sixers territory. And it's annoying because it's a longer season, but the regular season doesn't matter as much. Like once you make it to the World Series, now the goal for this team, whether they like it or not, and whether they deserve for it to be or not, is, hey, we're not going to be happy till you win the World Series because you went last year. And in baseball, a lot of times it's incremental growth.
See, to me, I think setting the goal for this year's Phillies team as win the World Series or it's a disappointment, that's completely unfair. I know you don't think that.
Right.
I know you don't think that. Like if the Phillies go out and win a wild card series and then play really well in the NLDS and they lose in 5.
Yeah, but when you spend...
I'll give it the golf clap. I'll give it the golf clap and say, okay, when this team got to October, they were there, they competed, and they played well. They just fell short.
Right.
That's one where you don't throw rocks.
Yeah,
if they go out and get their asses kicked, I will.
Exactly. But when you make it to the World Series and then you add to the team and you up the payroll,
right,
it's natural to say, okay, well, they're aiming for the World Series. And yeah, that's just something that they're going to have to live with the expectations of, whether they deserve to be there or not.
Pat, I asked you before. You think that at least in 3 of his seasons as a manager, Gabe Kapler has overachieved as far as what he's gotten out of his team.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you look at Rob Thompson the same way?
No, it's hard to say you overachieved with the roster you've been given. I mean,
that's why I wonder about the Gabe thing.
The Gabe thing, I just don't think he was given Bryce Harper, and maybe you could point to a couple other guys. Like, yeah, they signed Carlos Santana. That was terrible from the get-go. Didn't like that. They signed Jake Arrieta to a big contract, but he was cooked.
I liked it when they signed Jake Arrieta. I'm just raising my hand. I liked it. I can't go back and be.
I liked it.
I can't be 2020.
Carlos Santana. Like, I hated Carlos Santana.
You didn't like him?
I didn't like the idea of we're signing a first baseman and moving our first baseman to left field.
Right.
I thought that was done. I didn't think you needed a first baseman, and they didn't. But maybe they needed an adult in the room because we heard the stories afterwards. So I just don't think the team was ready to contend. They spent a lot on Bryce Harper, and the team around him was kind of dreck. It was not great if you look at those 2018, 2019 teams.
No, and he had them kind of in contention.
Yeah, that was my point.
Like that, yeah. You can't overlook that. With the players that he had and where he got with this Phillies, always in the hunt until August, it's kind of impressive.
Do you think with all the more tools that Rob Thompson has to deal with, I would say twice as many bullets in the gun, that he might got more out of the same talent base?
I don't know. It's hard to say Rob Thompson didn't overachieve last year. considering
in the postseason he did, absolutely.
Even in the regular season, the team he took over, like part of the achievement is not just the win-loss when you're managing, but what you're doing above the guy who was before you. Like Joe Girardi's not a terrible manager, even though he seemed like one here. And Rob Thompson was head and shoulders above him last year. So in the one season completed, even though it wasn't a full season, I'd say Rob Thompson's overachieved. This year, unless they make a deep playoff run, you can argue he's underachieved.
Do you think he's but in the regular season, do you think he's underachieved?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like, I wonder with a guy like Gabe, who is supposed to be this, I mean, he gets a lot of credit around baseball circles as being a guy who, whatever he does, he squeezes the most juice out of the lemon. They're very pleased with him there. Now, they've been terrible in this month in San Francisco. He's starting to feel some heat. They're starting to get on him. It's just interesting with Kapler back in town to just have this discussion. A guy who is known for sort of overachieving. I'm hoping there's that, as I said, Bob, the switch, that this team finds its gear when it's most important. When it's the most important time, this team's going to find its gear.
Yeah, when we're talking about underachieving, I don't go to Rob Thompson a little bit. Like, I go player by player and figure it out that way. First and foremost being Trey Turner. And then you can go to the Wheelers and the Nolas and the Real Mutos and all of that. I don't.
But what if I said to you, why don't you let Trey Turner be the guy that you hired him to be? That's a managerial decision. Why did you not let him? He is a leadoff hitter. You said in spring training he was going to be your leadoff hitter.
Fair point.
And you gave him a few. So so he gets the blame in my mind for partial for Trey Turner not being the guy that we expect him to be.
I guess. I mean, he's the manager. He gets partial blame for everything that goes on.
Trey Turner was hitting 300 like he did in the past and ripping off hits like he did in the past. I think he probably would have been leading off at the time that they put Schwarber at number one.
Well, the thing is, they give Schwarber all this time to work it out. They don't give Turner the same thing. I mean, you've given nothing but patience to Schwarber.
Yeah, well, Schwarber can hit the ball out of the yard.
And
I don't know. I mean,
and that's Pat. I mean, as far as that, you brought up that point before that Trey Turner didn't get his shot to be the guy that he said. That Rob Thompson sat behind microphones and said, "No, he will be." He never got the shot.
I believe he's had 15 games batting leadoff, and that's about it. If you want to make the point that Bob just made of, well, he's hitting 230 or whatever, I can't argue it against it. Putting a 230 hitter to circumvent a $170 hitter. The big thing with Rob Thompson has always been he doesn't look at batting average with Kyle Schwarber. He looks at on base percentage. Now, on base percentage, yeah, he does get on base. I still think it's dumb to have a 40 plus home run hitter batting leadoff when he can't run, and clogs up the base. It's idiotic to me. If I never hear the argument again of, we love starting the game off 1-0, that's cool. You know what? I like 3-0. That's cool. It's just idiotic. This mindset of and I've argued it before, but these, also like, you don't think that's in the pitcher's mind? He's hitting a $170. No, it's not in the pitcher's mind.
No.
If I'm an opposing pitcher, I'm not scared of a $170 hitter. I'm scared of a Barry Bonds type. A guy that can put bat on ball and seems to always get a base hit, and that's your prototypical leadoff hitter.
Mike Schmidt brings it up on the Sunday broadcast when he's on. Schwarber hits mistakes.
Yeah.
So a confident pitcher's not worried about making a mistake, and that's why he's hitting 170. Because a confident pitcher is not worried about, if he hits my mistake, so bad.
But he's also a huge strikeout guy. So do you want the gigantic strikeout guy that is he's got three results basically. Kyle Schwarber. Yes. He's either going to walk, he's either going to homer, or he's going to strike out.
That is the truth.
And that doesn't really make you prototypical for any spot in the lineup. I mean, it makes you sound like a power hitter. Yeah, not fast.
Oh, my fault.
But that's the thing. He's just having a really, really weird season.
Would you have batted Dave Kingman at leadoff back in the day, Bob?
No.
There's no logic to explain a lot of what he does.
Right, and analytics is logic. So this is going in the face of someone's telling him to do it.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing of sitting out your best hitter against lefties and giving young kids rest that don't need it. Giving a pitcher who just asks, when a starting pitcher says, I just want to throw the ball every fourth day. I don't want to be disrupted in my routine. And that could have been part of it. I believe the tipping pitches thing happened last night. That was so unlike Wheeler. He
struggled with the Nationals.
But the thing is, the Nationals did it to him twice, jumped him early, and that may be something. I don't understand, though, how you wouldn't realize the somebody doesn't. They can communicate now and everything to say something.
Lane Thomas was talking on the broadcast though. Like they had him mic'd up, and he's like, "We just see this guy well. He's just one of those guys we see well." I don't know. There's weird things like that in baseball.
I wouldn't expect him to say, "Yeah, I got to be honest, man. He's tipping pitches.
We
figured it out."
You're right. You're absolutely right. But there is that thing in baseball where you see guys well for whatever reason.
They have to tell the truth when they're on those microphones.
Absolutely,
they do. They're under oath.
Wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You're wrong. They're being checked.
It's
just an interesting discussion. It's an interesting discussion. It's a great read, and the Yankees organization. They talk about how the Yankees used it. He was brought up in that.
But let's remember, he was brought up in that. And they mentioned in the article why it worked was because they had a guy like Joe Girardi who held him accountable for their actions. And in 2009, I think we all remember what happened with that Yankees team. So while there are some drawbacks to it that we're seeing now, they won a World Series doing it. It was only one, but it has been proven to work, and he learned it from a guy that was able to win a world championship doing it.
I'm not do you look at the Yankees as achievers or underachievers? It's been,
they're always going to be
years.
They're always going to be among the top 3 to 5 payrolls in all of baseball. Therefore, should always be one of the top teams in baseball, and that's not the case. So you have to look at them as underachievers.
Like I look at the Yankees as an underachiever.
They are. They're huge underachievers, and
people don't tend to think that though.
They get a pass because of the history.
Yeah,
but
and they make the playoffs.
Yeah,
so they make the playoffs where they're under where their expectations probably are.
Yeah, they're the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to get in every year, but they don't have.
Who's their Kirk Cousins?
Great question. Aaron Judge. I don't know.
By the way, congratulations go to.
Oh, my brother Chase. He got engaged on Friday.
Congratulations, Chase.
Congrats, Chase.
Great
she
job.
She said yes.
She did say yes.
Yes,
no man is complete until he's married.
Did not have that on my.
And then he's finished.
Now there is a.
I'm sure they'll love that.
Use that in the speech.
What was the stressful part of any stress about the event? Did it all go well?
Connor was bombed. He doesn't know.
I was good. To a person, every guy that was in attendance was like, "Nah, it's fine," and every girl was like losing their mind.
It's like every guy who was there.
I've never heard of an engagement like this. Have you, John?
No.
So for background, Connor's brother took his soon-to-be fiance over to Connor's mom's house where many, many people were gathered and proposed in front of all those people.
Yeah, a lot of family in town and stuff like that. People flying in.
That's cool. I've never heard it. It's cool. Either. Yeah, I'm not putting it down. I never heard it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never proposed.
How did you propose, Bob?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Oh.
You did. I would imagine you did not do something very public.
I picked her up from work. And I said, "Oh, the Daily News gave me something today for being there 5 years." And she's like, "Oh, what'd they give you?" I said, "Oh, it's in the glove compartment." So she opened up the glove compartment, and there was a ring.
I love that.
That's how you did it. You used the Daily News as like a gift. That's very Bob Cody,
I think that's very on brand for
yeah.
I'm not
I
sure
think that's
she
a great
loved it,
idea.
That's how it went down.
I had Christina always wanted to take a hot air balloon ride, and the day that I had the hot air balloon secretly hired, ready to go, bad weather. So I had to come up with a plan B. So we have a bench. There's a bench in Centennial Olympic Park with a stone that our family had engraved. So I was welcoming her to the family. So I had the limo driver take her there, and she met me there, and I proposed there. But it was just the two of us. And then the workers came out of the...
Where'd the limo driver go?
The restaurant. He waited, and then he took us to dinner. So,
Pat has... We've talked about it on air before, but the Pat engagement.
Oh, really? I don't think I ever heard that.
You absolutely have.
You definitely have.
You have. Let's move on.
You didn't
he doesn't
do
like this stuff.
You took her to a rally house.
I did not take her
and then to ice cream.
Applebee's.
Took her to ice cream.
All right, so...
Real quick.
I hate this story. I wanted to propose with a penguin.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that.
Because penguins mate for life.
Wow.
So I
mate
called
for
up.
life?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
the penguin and a pebble.
I'm for that.
So the penguin presents a pebble, and then humans present a ring, and mate for life. Blah blah blah. So I called up the Baltimore Zoo, the Baltimore Aquarium, and they said no. And then I called up the Camden Aquarium, and they said we have puffins. So what's a puffin? They said it's like a penguin. I said, all right, how much? That was ridiculous pricing.
Okay.
And I explained, like, it's just me and her. It's like, no, for like 10 people and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm out.
No.
The Philadelphia Zoo I asked about, they emailed me back and said, we're booked until October. This was back in like May.
Wow.
Yeah, for on the weekends.
So people do this penguin thing?
Well, it was like I guess, but it was. I went on the weekends, and I was like, "What do you have during the weekday?" I'm still waiting to hear back. All right, so we had one zoo say no to Love, and one aquarium say no to Love, and then yeah. So I went up to the Lehigh Valley Zoo, and we hung out with a penguin, and then hey,
that's awesome.
You want to do this or not?
And then you made it.
Yeah.
Looks like you made it.
Show.
You took twice at least.
Let's
great job. Great job, guys. Enjoy your Monday. Everybody.
We apologize for ending the show.
Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partner, Carney All Seasons, and make a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research. Do it today at 97.5thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives. We have a Tuesday where we will talk about the first game of the playoff series with the Giants. The Eagles begin their joint practices and more. John Kincade Show. Have a great Monday, everybody.